Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the township's YouTube channel, where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. I will call the roll. Chair Harrison.
Here.
Vice Chair McCullough.
Here.
Mr. Caulfield is not present. Mr. Church.
Here.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Moore is here. Mr. Simon is not present, and Mr. Vera is not present. Ms. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Griffith.
Here.
Mr. Cruz.
Here.
And Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
All right.
Okay, we have the minutes of the February 19th meeting. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes?
Mr. Chairman, just one on page 5, line 154. The language doesn't seem to read correctly. I'm assuming that the second word, "that," perhaps needs to be deleted to make the sentence complete.
Yes. Yeah, I'll change it to Mr. Giacinto stated that the new carriage-style doors match the existing siding of the home.
Thank you.
Any other changes to those minutes? Not someone want to move the minutes with that change?
I'll move the minutes with the change.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have the resolution for the 627 Valley Road property, which embarrassingly, given the number of times I've revised these, I have a number of changes. On the first page, number 3, after 9.3, it should be was. On page 3, at the top of the page, number 2, the second line, it should be this location in the township rather than of the township. And on page 7, number 16, the last full line, delete center, which I don't know how, that's major one of embarrassing that I missed the brackets. And then, most embarrassingly, there's a missing whereas on page 8 at the top before you get they meet the criteria of C2. We should add, whereas the board, based on the aforementioned findings, concluded the applicant presented justification for the board to grant the density variance pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70D5. Anyone else with any other changes to the resolution?
Page 3, item 3, second line, retaining wall, both 2 front windows, parentheses coated with protective glaze, and I'd say please make it a film, not a glaze, please. That's all.
Any other changes to that resolution? If not, someone want to move the resolution with those changes?
I'll move the resolution with the changes.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then we have the resolution for the property on Argyle Road. I have 2 changes. Last line on page 1, it should be West Circuit Drive, not East Circuit Drive. Although that entrance road doesn't have a name, but it connects to West Circuit Drive. And on page 2, number 10, put at the end if possible. Anyone else with any changes to that resolution? If not, someone
Just
will.
a clarification, Mr. Chairman, where you had on page 1, changing east to west, would that west be a lowercase if it's not officially the name of the street?
Well, so the county's map of the park, it has East Circuit Drive coming in at Watchung Avenue and exiting on Bellevue Avenue. That strip coming in off of Bellevue isn't labeled, and then, but once it starts the circuit, it's West Circuit Drive, capital W, and there is no label on coming in off of Grove Street, but I think it needs a name, and I think it should, west should be, since east and west are otherwise capitalized.
Thank you.
Someone want to move the resolution with those changes?
I'll move the resolution with the changes, Mr.
Is there a second?
Second?
If, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have the resolution for the property on William Street. I have no changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes?
None.
Someone will move the resolution with, as proposed?
Um,
Second.
Ms. Green, you be assertive. Just
I'll try a
speak
little
up
bit more.
quickly. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? First application is that of Mercury, is a continuation of the public hearing of Mercury Montclair LLC for property at 26 Orange Road. Mr. Trembulac, are you ready to proceed?
Good evening, everyone. Alan Trembulac, appearing on behalf of the applicant Mercury Montclair LLC. This is a continuation of my client's application, the hearing on my client's application for a use variance to convert the first floor of the building located at 26 Orange Road from office use to an additional residential dwelling unit. The property is located in the R2 two-family zoning district. The existing building, as you'll recall, is a non-conforming mixed-use building with office space on the first floor and 3 apartments located on the upper 2 floors. And again, we're proposing to eliminate the office use from the first floor, which would make this building 100% residential. Since the last time we were here in January, we've submitted 2 things. One, a more detailed floor plan from the architect for the proposed first floor. And we've also submitted a revised site plan from William Stimmel, our site engineer and planner, which just shows some minor changes, really, and additional information, primarily in the rear of the property. I'd like to call both of the experts for some, I think, fairly brief testimony. I think I'd like to start with Mr. Stimmel.
All right, Mr. Stimmel, you were previously sworn. You understand you're still under oath?
I do, yes.
All right, Mr. Stimmel, you submitted a revised site plan, I believe has a revision date of March 4, 2025, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, can you just discuss the revisions that are depicted on that plan?
Sure, and as you had mentioned, they're fairly minor in nature. The first 2 revisions were comments from, in response to comments from the board. We changed the notation for the landscaping at the back of the property from topsoil and seed to sod, and noted that it was going to be a slow-growing, drought-tolerant kind of planting in that area. The other change is that we noted the location of the HVAC pad, which had been under the covered area at the back of the building, is now moved into the backyard to allow a place for the refuse containers in that covered area.
Okay. speaking of the refuse containers, you've been to the property, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to the board how trash is currently taken from the rear of the building to the street on pickup days?
Yes. Looking at the plan submitted by the architect, sheet A101 is up on the screen. If the board members look at there's two renderings of the floor plan, the existing condition on the left, the proposed condition on the right for the ground floor plan. The buildings are brought along the south side of the building. They go in the door that's in the angled face where the projection cuts back in to meet the setback face of the building. They run along that hallway and go out the front door, the left front door, if you're looking at the building from the street, and are brought out to the curb that way.
So it's basically a straight shot, if you will, from the rear through that hallway on the southerly side of the building.
Yeah, to my experience, it's a bit of a strange setup, but it's basically just a covered hallway to get from the back of the property to the front.
Because the building, there's no room. I mean, the building, there's no side yards anywhere.
Right.
So the only way to get trash to the front would be through the building.
The building is built to the property lines on both sides at the street line. As you get further back, it angles in, but you can't get from back to front with that while staying outside without going onto the neighboring properties.
Okay. And so that's the way trash has historically been taken to the front and would continue to be taken through that hallway.
Yes, the client has explained it to me. That's how the trash operates now. There's obviously apartments upstairs, and that's how it's going to operate in the future.
Okay. I think at the last meeting, there was a question as to how do you get landscape materials, like sod, for example, soil, to the rear of the property?
Right, so there's two ways to do it. One is to take it through the same hallway as the trash containers, or because of the fact that that ground floor unit is currently vacant and is going to be renovated to serve as apartment, should the board look favorably, you could take it right through that apartment, future apartment.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I have for Mr. Stimmel.
Nicole, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Stimmel. Just staying on the landscaping question, so you've addressed in terms of initially how the landscaping will be prepared, and that access will be either through that corridor, as you noted, or through the apartment until, of course, it's been renovated.
Correct.
But in terms of the long term, is it anticipated that whoever will assume responsibility for landscaping will be utilizing that corridor in order to be able to do this?
So, again, referring to the architect's plan, and I'm going to approach the screen. There's a notation on the plan pointing to an area under the existing stairwell for landscape storage. There's going to be a small electric mower brought in the back of the building, parked under the steps, and then taken out to the backyard as needed. Anything beyond that would then have to use that same corridor. Regular mowing is going to be handled with the equipment on site. Anything additional that requires a landscape contractor is going to be brought through the trash corridor.
So in other words, all of the equipment that would be necessary for the upkeep of that area is anticipated as being parked in the rear
Correct.
Area of the house, of the building. And then, so that whoever is actually responsible to do the work would be accessing through the corridor in order to go and to do the work and then to exit when it's done. That's the plan?
That is my understanding, yes.
I don't know if this is a good question for you, or if it's for another witness that Mr. Tremblay may have, but would you speak to, because I just want to understand from a security point of view, because obviously the person who is going to be doing this has to have access to this corridor, and it's not obvious as to who provides that access, but there is I noticed that there seems to be a doorway leading to stair number 2. Is that a locked door, do you know, or?
I think the architect could probably answer that question better.
Okay, then we'll save that question for the architect. Thank you.
Mr. Church?
No questions right now.
Ms. Harris?
I have no questions.
Ms. Grant?
I don't have any questions either right now.
Mr. Cruz?
I just had one question about the landscaping equipment. Could you just clarify again how the landscapers would get access to the equipment? Like, they would be walking through the house?
They would have access to the house through the trash corridor, and they would get the mower out of the rear door, take it out from underneath the stairwell out the back door.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Griffith?
I have questions for the architect about that.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
Probably have questions for the architect. I guess they're dealing with the doorway. Well, when you first go into the right side, there was, the last time you were here, at an application, we had talked about there not being certain things on the plans regarding what's on the other side of the doorway. Would that be for yourself or the architect probably?
The floor plans have been revised to hopefully address those questions, but the architect is here to, no, I'm taking Mr. Trembulak's job. The architect is here to answer those questions.
I just, this is probably half for you, but since you were dealing with the landscaping and the access to the room where the electric mower is through the back door, which is going to the first floor apartment. I'm just wondering who is going to have access, because once you're in there, you're in the first floor apartment, and to deal with your part of this, is it envisioned that there will be a landscaper, or will one of the first floor tenant be responsible for maintenance of the one area?
I don't know that the applicant has made that determination yet. However it's done, they'll need some access to the building, because you can't get to the back without going through the building. But then you would also need access to get into the ground floor apartment. So I don't know if it's going to be...
So it's one issue going down a hallway, and then going back that side of the building in the rear. It's another literally walking into the apartment, and I'll follow up with the architect. Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Are there any members of the audience who have questions for this witness?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I had one more question. So with regards to the access, was there any internal discussion about getting an easement for access through the neighbor's side yard?
There was no discussion to that effect that I'm aware of. If you're looking at it from the street, the property to the left, the buildings almost meet. It wouldn't be possible to have any functional access to the left of the building. It's possible you could do it through the property to the right, but they have planting beds and fairly limited space anyway between the two. So I don't know that it would necessarily work there either.
But it would be possible to have, walking pedestrian access for the landscapers on that side.
In theory, yes.
In theory,
but
yeah.
I don't believe it was something that was pursued by the client.
Okay, well, it wasn't something discussed. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any members of the audience who have questions for this witness? If not, Mr. Trembulak, you want to call the architect?
Yes, I call the architect. I'm going to do my best to pronounce or mispronounce his name again. Soshon Pang.
Thank you. Yeah,
Close
Soshon
enough.
Pang, yeah.
And you were sworn in previously. I understand you're still under oath?
Yes.
And for purposes of this hearing, Zana, well, you were previously sworn in, you understand you're still under oath?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Okay, I'm going to call you Derek, which is what I'm used to calling you.
Yep.
You submitted the revised drawings since the last meeting. I think the revision date is March 7, 2025, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so I'm going to ask you just really a few questions. I mean, I'd like you to, because I think there was some confusion or lack of clarity, if you will, in terms of the various entrances to the first, second, and third floor.
Yep.
All right, can you explain for the board?
Sure.
And reference your drawing if you need to, where the entrances are
Sure.
for each of the 3 floors?
Yep, so I'm going to walk through the drawing.
You have to take a microphone.
Yeah, there's one.
Hello? You hear me? Yes. Cool, thanks. So as we see from the left side, it's the existing building, floor plan, first floor, and this is the proposed one. I'm going to use the existing one to explain the access to the buildings. So we generally have 2 entrances from the front building. One is on the left, the other one is on the right-hand side. So let's talk about the right-hand side first. They have a door which can be locked. When you go into the foyer, if you go straight, there's another door. It's been locked by the second tenant. If you go through the stair and make a left turn, you will go to the second floor unit. And standing in the foyer, if you make a left turn right away, there's another entrance door, which is dedicated for the first floor units. So you get through here for the first floor building. And if we talk about the entrance door from the left, you take step up, and then you go through this public hallway, and you have one door that can be locked and secured. You have a second door here. I believe this door is not locked, and you can open it freely. And then you go about, I believe it's about 40 feet, around that 50 feet, you will see an exterior door going to the side, which will provide the access. You can go to the rear yard. And if you make a right turn, this is the tricky part. Last time we have some confusion. So I go back to the side and try to measure it and make sure it's as accurate as possible. You make a right turn, and you will see another staircase going upstairs to the second floor. When you go up there, you will be able to see there's another door going to the second floor unit. So generally, that's the access to the building and the unit on the second floor.
How about access to the third floor?
If you're standing approximately this way, you make another turn, you will have another staircase going to the third floor.
So when you get up to the second floor, there's another staircase from that landing, if you will,
Yes.
that leads to the third floor.
Yes.
Okay. So the occupants of the third floor, when they're, coming home at night or whatever, they would enter the front door,
Yes.
go down the hallway, and work their way up to the third floor.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Are there also entrances to each of the 3 floors from the rear of the building?
If we standing in the same staircase, there will be a door from this area. Basically, it's the same location as the first floor here. You will be able to go out to the deck out there. The same thing happened from the third floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can enter.
From the deck, and you can go through the staircase here. You can go to, hope I can save it. Yeah, basically, I've also extended this area. This is from the first floor, it's a concrete pad, and to the right-hand side, there's a wood staircase turning about 180 degree and go all the way from the first floor, second floor, and third floor.
Okay. Okay. And you made some changes in that rear area that you're just referring to with respect to the air conditioning.
Yep. So,
condensers.
yes, last time we talked about the garbage maintenance, also the landscape maintenance. And also the opening, if we change this entrance to here, we have two HVAC unit pad standing here. It's going to block the way. So what we are going to propose is move these two units out there so we clear a pathway. It's easier for garbage management and also provide access to the landscaper. Underneath here, the existing condition is underneath the staircase, we can get access to the first floor unit, serving as a shaft or storage area. In the new proposed plan, we close this door and provide a exterior door that the landscape can get the storage and equipment from the outside instead of going into the first floor unit. So that's the two couple major changes here.
So, I apologize. Do you say that the landscape equipment, lawnmower, or whatever it's going to be, can be accessed,
To outdoor.
does not have to come in through the,
They don't need to come into the first floor unit. If you see, this door is opening inward to the staircase.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other revisions of any kind that were made to the floor plan, or is it just adding, detail and showing the,
The rest of the plan generally remain the same.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. No further questions.
Yes, so Mr. Chang, I'd like to revisit the question that I was posing earlier, and that is, so the corridor on the left side of the building
Yeah.
leads to where one can go outside and access the equipment and the backyard, basically.
Mhm.
Correct? Okay. But then to the right is stair number 2, which goes up to the second floor and the third floor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a door in front of that stairwell, or is that just an open corridor as well?
It's an open corridor.
So that means that whoever comes in, or the persons that come in to do the landscaping, would then have access not only to go into the outside, but also would have access going to the second floor and to the third floor.
Potentially,
Is that
yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible to put a door, a locked door, at the base of that stairwell so that those persons do not have that access?
I believe so.
All right, I'd like to recommend that that be done.
Sure.
The other question I have is, in terms of the entrance to the right, where you have stair number 1.
Mhm.
Stair number 1, where does that lead again?
That's leading to the second floor.
So there are 2 stairwells that lead to the second floor.
Yes.
Can you just help me understand why there are 2 stairwells leading to the second floor?
It's a existing condition, so I won't be able to explain why, but the side measurement tell me there's 2 staircase. Yeah.
So would, from a design perspective, would you anticipate the primary entrance to the second floor apartment to be through stairwell 1 or stairwell 2?
Stairwell 1.
1, okay. So with that in mind, can you speak to what the door looks like leading into apartment 2 from stairwell 1, as opposed to the door that leads into the same apartment from stairwell 2?
From the appearance, they're looking similar. They are solid wood door with lock, can open from one side. It's a swing door. Yep.
So-
I won't have access inside there, so that's all I can see from the public area.
Go ahead.
How many apartments are there on the second floor?
To my understanding, it's only 1 unit.
And on the third?
On the third, we have 2 units.
Question. Why don't we have a drawing of what's on the third floor? Or am I missing something?
Why don't we have a drawing?
Why isn't something showing what's on the third floor and how that access is made from stair 2? I don't see on this anything. Is there a reason for that, or?
Can you repeat your question?
The question is, why isn't there something showing, something showing on this drawings concerning the third floor? That's my question.
I can answer that.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
and the reason we didn't, we're only proposing to change the first floor, and
Okay.
the second and third floors are existing. We're not making any changes whatsoever. Look, it's an unusual building for sure, the way it's laid out, but this is the way it's functioned and been for many years, and we're not looking to change anything on the upper floors.
Okay, another question I have then is, on this drawing here, next to the bump out before stair number 2, it's blank. What is that? That square? Is that anything, or is it just nothing?
Right now, that area cannot be accessed from the first floor. And based on the measurement and observation from the public hallway, I believe that's a vertical shaft.
It was what, excuse me?
Vertical shaft for the pipings.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
I think last time you appeared, you stated that you were planning to install a sprinkler system in the building. I just want to make sure that's still.
That's still
plan.
the case.
Okay, thank you.
Couldn't hear what that.
The sprinkler system.
Sprinkler.
And will that be on all 3 floors? That's that question.
Will that be on all 3 floors?
Pardon?
Will you install the sprinkler on all 3 floors?
I think we only propose to alternate the first floor. That's what we're proposing at this moment.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's, if you sprinkler 1 floor, I think you have to do the
First
whole
floor.
building. I would just check with the.
At this moment, we propose to do the sprinkler for first floor.
Okay, I would just, check with code, because I think you might have to actually install it. for the whole
If
building.
required, then yes, yeah.
Ms. Grant?
No questions.
Mr. Cruz?
I also have no questions.
Mr. Griffith?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you for cleaning up the floor plans. They're much more understandable.
My pleasure.
The stair to the right that's on the front facade, I assume, leads to the front apartment on the second floor. On the second floor, I assume you have 2 apartments.
I don't have access to it.
It's not even necessary, but you're filing for a 4th apartment, means there's 3 above.
3 above,
And you
yes.
have 2 stair landings on the second floor, so I'm going to conclude you have 2 apartments there. That's the logic, just saying.
On the third.
And it's not really relevant. I'm just trying to clarify our understanding.
It's important that the testimony is clarified. I thought you testified that there's 1 apartment on the second floor and
Yes.
2 on the third floor.
Yes,
Is that right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my misunderstanding. I thought it made sense there'd be 2 on the second floor since you were already there. In any case, the basement, there is no basement in this building, is that correct?
You can get access to the basement through the exterior staircase from.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
There is an access to here, going to the basement.
That's an outside stair. It appears to be made out of wood. You're saying it goes down?
It goes down, yes.
It goes down, not to the basement?
That's
Over
what
there.
my observation, yes.
Huh. Interesting, okay. On your floor plan, you show a bedroom that doesn't have any windows in it.
Yes. We've discussed that previously. If we have a sprinkler system, that should meet the code.
It's not our purview, but it seems like not acceptable to the building code the last time I had looked at it. You have a parking issue, there's nothing planned to do about that, as I've heard. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
I'd like to also thank you for putting more detail into the drawings.
My pleasure.
Would you consider putting a window on the first floor? I mean, there's space, there's opportunity.
For the bedroom,
Yeah. Let's see. The bedroom is on the right side, right?
on the left side, actually,
It's on the
if we're
left,
looking at
okay.
the joint, it's next to the public hallway. So if we want to put a window there, then that window is going to the public hallway.
Well, that's, okay. On both sides,
Yeah.
there's stairwells. Is there door number 1 and door number 2, right?
So let's try and clarify.
Okay.
Let's try and clarify this one. You're talking about this bedroom, right? Bedroom number 2,
Yeah.
which is being in the middle of the building,
Okay.
right? If we want to have a window on this wall, that's okay, but that's only serving the visual purpose. If that's a requirement, we can definitely add that.
And what about the living room?
The living room is right here. We have a window along these
Front.
faces.
But nothing on the side?
On this side,
Yeah.
it,
I'm looking at picture number 5, well, figure number 5, picture of the side of the building looking north.
That's from the planner's memo?
There are no ground floor windows on the side of the building.
I prepared some elevation for the board as well. If we take a look at this one, are you talking about this,
Yeah.
the windows?
Okay.
That's a tricky part, right? From exterior, yes, we see some of opening here, but right now it's all being covered by plywood, so you won't be able to get access from indoor.
Access, I'm just talking about windows.
Windows, we have
Light,
2 windows
natural
here.
light.
Okay.
It is on. I'm just referring to natural light. If you-
Yep.
Right here. This area.
This area.
Are you proposing any windows? right here?
Jonathan, talk closer to the
Are you
microphone.
proposing any windows?
I'm not proposing any window on that area. If yes, if required, that window is only going to be going through the public hallway. Right, in that case, it's not benefiting for the first floor unit. But public hallway, we do not have a lot of people staying a lot of time there, right? I do not believe that's going to benefit the building a lot from my professional standpoint. But if it's required, I believe we can add that.
I just wanted to remind the board, since we've been at this for a while, the original plan that we submitted called for a bedroom in the front of the building where there would be window from the front facade, and then the living room, I guess, would be behind that. And the only reason we changed that was because of a comment in the planning memorandum that suggested that it might not be a good idea to have a bedroom window so close to the public sidewalk in the front of the building, although the windows there, I think, are pretty high, the architect. But that was the reason. We originally provided for a bedroom with a window, but it would have to be in the very front of the building, and we made the change because of the planner's comment, suggestion that that might not be. We'd be happy to go back to the original plan if the board wanted it.
I'm referring to the side of the building, not the front.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yes,
And you addressed it.
yes,
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And just so understand, the current opening that goes to the area under stairway number 2, you're closing that off,
From the,
and then you're having a new door put in, so it can be accessed from that
exterior,
little
yes.
area under the stair can be accessed. And then you're putting in another new door next to it for access to the first floor apartment, correct?
you're right, yes.
Okay. And then, I'm a little confused by your west side elevation as to the heights you're showing on the openings as to, are those all are all 3 doors full? I mean, are the 2 doors full-size doors? The one you're closing off, correct? The existing door to the first floor is being closed off, is that correct? That's by the stairway that goes up to the second and third floors at the rear of the building.
So I believe we're talking about this door,
Yes.
right? Currently, it's been blocked by the HVAC unit, so it looks a little bit weird. But I agree with you, the door should be aligned perfectly because they have the same level. I will adjust it in the next submission if that's the issue for you.
Okay, I'm trying to understand what you're showing at the rear of the building.
Yes,
Okay, so starting off on the left-hand side as you're facing the building, which you're showing where the existing door is and what's happening there.
is it possible I can mark up here? You're talking about, so you're talking about this door?
Yes,
That is the existing door.
correct. What is it,
I,
is that, your plans show that being now closed off?
yes, yes. I should make this plan clear. This is existing elevation as well because, this is a thing I can revise.
So what is going to fill that space? What is it going to look like?
It's going to be matched with the existing brick finish.
And then going over to the right-hand side as you're facing the rear of the building, will those be 2 full-size doors, one that going into the ground floor apartment and one going into the little storage area?
If we look into the plan, they generally the same size, about 3 foot, yes.
And the same height?
Same height, yes.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I don't know if it's so much of a question, but I would like to see a window on that left stairway, just because it's a busy area. Landscaper maybe coming in through this way and exiting through into the backyard, right? We don't know if it's going to be the resident's responsibility or
I agree with you.
right? You're right across the street from a hotel. I think natural light
Yep,
is always a pleasant thing.
I agree with you.
So something to consider.
Sure, I would take that.
Are there any members of the audience who have questions for this witness? Okay, Mr. Trembulac, do you have any further witnesses?
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay, are there any members of the audience who have any testimony, comments, anything whatsoever you want to say about this application? Okay, Mr. Trembulac, do you want to sum up?
Sure. So we're seeking 2 variances from the board. The use variance, again, to permit the first floor to be converted from business, office use to a residential. and then a parking variance. It's obvious this building has never had any on-site parking, and it's impossible to provide any. So the question is, what's better for this location? You've got a non-conforming building with, again, it's in an R2 zone. You have non-conforming office space on the first floor, 3 apartments on the upper floors. We think it's better to eliminate the office use and to provide an additional residential use in a residential zone. So even though it's going to be non-conforming in terms of the number of units, at least they're all residential, which is consistent with, every other house that's on the west side of Orange Road. And also by changing the residential, the office use to residential, you're also lowering the parking demand for the property. Fewer parking spaces are required, meaning there's less of a deficiency by converting from office to residential. And, in addition, as a practical matter, any residential tenant who's going to rent space there knows they're going to have to find parking, whether it's across the street in the parking deck or somewhere else. They know that the apartment comes without parking. Whereas if it remains a first floor office use, you theoretically, if it's a busy office, you got people coming and going every day, and where are they going to park? They're not going to know. A tenant knows, where his parking space is. If somebody coming to the office space here, unless you're lucky enough to find a spot on Orange Road, where do they park? So, converting this to a strictly residential building in a residential zoning district is beneficial in and of itself, and it's also beneficial in that it reduces the parking demand and provides for a lower parking deficiency than there currently is, and again, on a site where it's impossible to provide any parking. So, for those reasons, I think the variances should be approved. We also require site plan approval, and, we've attempted to address all of the site plan concerns that the board has raised, and there's some that have been expressed and would likely be conditions which would certainly be acceptable to the applicant. So, thank you.
We'll start with Mr. McCullough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm supportive of the application with the understanding that a new door will be installed leading up to stairwell number 2. Thank you.
Mr. Church.
I'll be supportive of the application as it's presented with the changes that were made at our request.
Ms. Harris?
I'm in favor of the application. I don't agree with the request for the window on the side of the building. I just don't think it will be worth, the juice will be worth the squeeze on this one, so I don't think we should make that as a condition.
Ms. Grant?
I'm in favor of the application.
Mr. Cruz?
I'm also in favor of the application, and I concur about having a door on the first floor so the landscapers can't get to higher floors.
Mr. Griffith?
I'm in favor, though with a caveat that the plans have to comply with the building code with regard to light and air and windows and bedrooms and living space. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
I'm in favor of the application.
I'm in favor of the application, I'll repeat, but otherwise behave myself. It would have been nice if we saw the third apartment unit like we should have, and it might have helped deal with this application a lot more, because we would have known much more about the stairs getting up there. But I think the property is in a residential zone. It's a building that is really oversized to be 2 apartment units. I think the applicant has justified granting the variance as was indicated. The switching from commercial space to residential would reduce the parking demand, and tenants will be aware of that. I don't think approving this will be a substantial detriment to the public good or a substantial impairment of the zone plan. They're not changing the exterior of the building anyway. It's still going to present itself the same as it has always had. I think there are a number of conditions, start with the requirement that a door be provided in the hallway before you get to stair number 2 to preclude people otherwise using that hallway for other purposes, who are not residents of the second or third floor, being able to access that. The existing door to the rear be closed off to match the existing building adjacent to that. The only access to the storage area under stair 2 be from the exterior of the building, and debating whether to do this, that the applicant, the property owner, is responsible for maintaining the lawn area to the rear, so it appears much better than it did last summer to the properties to the rear on St. Luke's Place and to the adjacent properties, and that this is a self-evident, but I'll just leave it as Mr. Griffiths said, is that the building be designed to code. I think there are a number of issues, and I'm not doing it specific so we avoid your coming back here, but I have this suspicion that when the sprinkler issue is explored, that the costs of that are going to dictate that it not be done, and that in turn is going to render the one bedroom not usable as a bedroom, and in turn result in it being moved to the front of the building is a likely result. But rather than dictating any of that, just require you build it to code, which you have to do anyway. But I think I want to make a message that sooner rather than later, I would explore the sprinkler issue and what the cost involved will be, because you may end up, before you start doing improvements to the first floor, that you'll have to change because of the code issues. Okay, any other discussion or conditions from board members? If not, someone want to move the application with those conditions?
I make a motion to approve this application, given the consideration stated by the vice chair and the chair.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you very much.
The next application is that of Kelly and David Ferguson for property at 153 Montclair Avenue. This is an application for variances required to replace the existing non-conforming detached garage. The property is located in the R1 one-family zone district and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 29 and Block 4514. Variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-46A2A to permit a side yard setback of 3 feet for accessory structures where 6 feet is the required minimum. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your names and addresses, please.
Courtney Rambo, 141 Central Ave, Montclair.
David Ferguson, 153 Montclair Avenue. Hello?
good now.
Okay. Good. 153 at Montclair Avenue, Montclair.
Okay, and Zana, for the remainder of these 3 applications, do you swear to tell the truth in these matters pending before the board?
I do.
Just state your name and position with the municipality.
Zainab Gosmi, Assistant Planner.
Thank you.
Okay, proceed.
Good evening. I put together this additional PowerPoint presentation. Everything's from the drawings you have in front of you, and I took a few additional images from the planning report.
Ms. Ramo, just let me make sure, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. Your license is in good standing, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
My clients, David and Kelly, are proposing to demolish their existing one-car garage and replace it with a two-car garage. Their existing garage is very small and isn't able to house a current car in this day and age, and it's in bad shape. And it's currently 2.3 feet from the south side yard setback. They'd like to build a two-car garage and make it 3 feet from the side yard setback. They have a few hardships. The current garage is in the current setback, the side yard. The garage is too small, and Kelly has an elderly mother that has mobility issues, so they need to make sure they can get the SUV in and out of the garage. You'll see in this photo here, they have a very big backyard that slopes down away from their neighbors. So there won't be any drainage issue draining into their south neighbor's yard. It'll drain into their own yard. We're adding 190 square feet from the old garage to the new garage. And you'll see here, this is a view from the street. Go back to this one. There won't be any sightline issues because it's built in the same, we're proposing to build it in the same location that the current garage is in. The new garage will improve the value of the neighborhood and the house because everybody needs a garage that they can fit current cars into. And we're using the land efficiently without disrupting too much of the yard. You'll see down in this corner is a blown-up version of what's on this site plan. So you'll see the current garage is in red here to be demolished. It's 2.3 feet from the side yard setback, and we're proposing it to be 3 feet from the side yard setback. The rear of the existing garage is currently 10.33 feet, and we're making it better by making it 12 feet from the rear. Here are some views of the existing garage down here and then the proposed garage above. We're keeping the same style of the existing garage. The one difference is the existing garage has a hip roof and we're proposing a gable roof to match the house. You'll see this is the gable roof on the front of the house here. Here's a few more photos showing how close it is to the setback, and we'll be making it better by pushing it further away. And this is what it looks like from above. So we respectfully ask for you to grant us this variance to build a nice, big, safe garage for them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Rombaugh, just a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
Would you share with us why you're proposing for the setback to be changed from 2.3 to 3 feet? What is the rationale for?
Richard Sharoon told me Richard Sharoon told me we'd have a good chance of getting it approved if we did 3 feet.
You'd have a chance to get it approved.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll think about that.
Thank you. From
what I understand, the scale of the driveway is remaining as it currently exists?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, I guess, one of the pictures that we have shows that I guess the rear of the garage was damaged. Is that because of tree limbs? Is that, Mr. Ferguson, can you speak to that?
How did your garage get damaged? It's just old, right?
It's just old.
It's just
Yeah.
old, so it wasn't because of that big tree that's,
No.
okay. And you're not worried about that tree?
Always worry about the tree.
You always worry about that tree? It's a big tree.
Take good care of the tree.
Okay. In terms of the garage, just two questions for you. Do I understand correctly that internally, that you just have open rafters above where the cars will be parked, so there's no storage anticipated above the vehicles?
That's correct. It's a vaulted ceiling.
Okay. All right. And then my last question is just about the lighting that you propose for the garage. You talked about the architectural design of the garage being consistent with the house itself. But the lighting, is that also consistent with the lighting on the external of the house itself?
That's a good question. We haven't selected a light fixture yet. The light fixtures were going to be on the sides, but through the HPC, they asked us to add the corner boards to match the existing garage. So we moved the lights on top of the garage, but we have not yet selected a light fixture. But it's a good idea to match what's on the house.
You said to put the lights on top of the garage? What did you
On
mean?
top of the garage doors.
Oh, over the doors?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just would recommend that you look at consistency of the lighting. It may not have to be exact, but...
Yeah, it's a good idea.
But I would recommend that. All right, thank you.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
I got one. The garage doors on your proposed garage, are those overheads or are they barn doors?
They will be overheads.
So that just mimics a barn door.
Correct.
Okay. And then that area I'm looking at the proposed now. The area, as you're looking at to the left, is that new area or is that already there? The macadam top there, it looks like macadam.
You're looking at my drawings, right?
I'm looking at the front page.
This,
Yeah, to the left, as I'm looking at the garage, the proposed, to the left, there's an area paved. Is that macadam or was that going to be something else?
to the, right here,
Yes.
that's just grass.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Ms. Harris?
Besides what Richard advised you, I mean, you do have room on the site to comply with the setback, the side yard setback. Is there a reason why you didn't attempt to comply with the setback?
They want to keep as much of their backyard grass as they can. They're planning on having grandkids soon and want to be able to enjoy the entire backyard with their family.
Okay, and then the driveway surface itself, that is existing, you're not making any revisions to that, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Grant?
In the back of the garage on the side, there's a that's a stone retaining wall.
Yes.
Are you doing any work to the retaining wall, or are you keeping the stones and just keeping the stones?
No, we're ripping out that whole retaining wall and building a new
And
retaining
replace-
wall.
Like what you have here and the...
Yeah, do I have this section?
I did that retaining wall, I wouldn't trust it.
This is showing the beginning of the section before we developed it with our structural engineer, but it will come up above grade. So the back, half of the back of the, sorry, I'm looking at you, half of the back of the garage will be the retaining wall holding.
Yeah, you show it in the rendering here, so I can see where it like comes up a little halfway. next to that, next to the building section you're talking about.
Oh,
So I can-
you're talking about the,
No, the rendering to the right.
uh-huh,
Yeah, I can see where you say it comes up.
okay, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, Mr. Cruz,
I have no questions.
Mr. Griffith?
Questions, right?
Yes.
I have no questions.
Mr. Moore?
I'm looking at the Montclair Historic Preservation's recommendation, or, sure. Yeah, so I'm looking at the Historic Preservation Commission's question in regards to utilizing the existing garage door hinges that could preserve and perhaps that you can utilize on the new garage.
Yes.
It says that you were going to explore that. I see on your second page of the drawings, right? This is an illustration. Would this take place on both doors or just one?
We're planning on saving those hinges and using them somewhere else on the property. We're not going to try to use them on the new doors that are roll-up doors.
Okay, they're roll-up doors.
Yeah. They're beautiful hinges, so I hope we can use them somewhere.
Okay.
Just continuing on the historic preservation, they also asked you about the feasibility of installing glass panes on the doors. Did you?
I did. So, do you see on your drawing right here on the second page? We explored that. It didn't really work, but I put it on there to show that we explored it.
That's
Just
why I
doesn't work with the
know
four
it.
sections.
How to know what, I knew you were showing that, I didn't know. Okay. And then you had prior discussion, have you decided on whether you're going to put lights above the garage doors?
The lights will be above the garage door.
And then their other recommendation was reinstalling the corner boards to match the original structure.
Yep, we put the note right there on the second page for that. And drew them in.
And stormwater, I know you indicated the neighbor to the south is slightly higher elevation, but how is the stormwater being handled on that side?
We're only disrupting 190 square feet of grass, so we don't meet the 250 that we need.
No, but
Okay.
from the roof, how is the water getting from the roof to the ground, and where on the ground is it going?
Okay, so there's gutters and downspouts. So the gutters and the downspouts are on either side.
Okay, and the downspouts, which direction are they pointing when they reach the ground?
Away from the building.
And I guess the concern there is that's towards the neighbor, and I couldn't really tell looking at it this morning as to whether I'm comfortable that that's never going to reach the neighbor's property.
So if we drain the gutters towards the back of their property and then have the downspouts come down on the back of their property and not towards their neighbors, you'd feel more comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the board? Are there any members of the audience who have questions, testimony, comments, anything whatsoever you want to say about the application? This is your opportunity, your one and only opportunity. Anything further either of you want to say before we discuss on the application? And this is your last chance to say something.
No, thank you.
Okay. We'll start discussion with Mr. Church.
Yeah, the improvement is market by taking out the old garage and putting in the new one. The new one's very nice. The setting of the garage, the new garage, 3 feet from the drop line or the line. To me, I think you've got enough room. You could move it over more. I would suggest, or I would recommend, that it be moved at least 4 feet over, because you have the room. I don't think you're going to take up that much of the backyard or kill off that much of the grass by moving it over. And thereby, any runoff from the roof for any reason that doesn't go into the gardens or go into his property will be more likely to if you move it over. So I would recommend 4 feet over. Otherwise, the drawing, the garage is nice. And I read the Historical Commission's comments, and I see that they're making some comments that are just going to be impossible to do, like the hinges and things like that with these type doors. When you're mentioning the lights over the doors, is it over each set of doors, or is it just one light for both sets?
One over each door.
One over each?
Yeah.
Okay, and I would recommend that correct. I would approve it based on the fact that, based on the condition that you move it 4 feet over and don't leave it at 3. I think you're much healthier there.
Mr. Church, when you say move it 4 feet, you're talking to provide a 4-foot side yard
Yes.
setback as opposed to the 3-foot that's proposed?
That's correct. Sorry. Clear.
Ms. Harris?
I agree with Mr. Church. I think, the garage as proposed is a vast improvement to what's there before. I still don't think that it's a hardship for you to comply with the side yard setback here, so I don't know that I would be in favor of the application as it's presented today. The 4 feet is an improvement on 3, but there's plenty of room to comply with the 6, so I think that should be done in this case.
Ms. Grant?
I'm in favor of the application. I know it's hard to incorporate the hinges, but they are nice, so I agree with the Historic Preservation Commission on that point.
Mr. Cruz?
I'm also in favor of the application, and I concur with Mr. Church about improving the nonconformity from 3 feet to 4 feet.
Mr. Griffith?
No, I'm in favor of the application. It's nicely designed, clearly presented. I appreciate the windows. Natural light's always good, even in a garage.
Mr. Moore?
I'm in favor of the application. I think that it's a nice presentation with preserving the existing look, historic value, and also I do see it being somewhat of a hardship where your existing garage is smaller and doesn't really fit your family size. So I'm in favor of the application. I think that it will also enhance your property.
Mr. McCullough?
Yeah, I'm basically also supportive of the application. I do have a question about the 4-foot setback. Would that change the nature of the driveway? I mean, the pavement?
That's a good question. Yes, that would offset it from the driveway.
Because the driveway, what is the material of the driveway currently?
Asphalt?
It is asphalt. And your intention was not to redo the driveway at this point? So if
You have to say words.
No.
So if I guess, I don't know if Mr. Church is proposing the option of a 4-foot setback as opposed to a requirement, but if you had the option, then that would be one thing. If you were required, then it would mean that you would have to do something about the asphalt. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the application, but would like clarification, perhaps from the chair ultimately, in terms of how this should proceed.
So, yeah, I meant to ask about the, I mean, we have this situation where we've been, what started out as a minimum of 3 feet has suddenly become a minimum and maximum of 3 feet. That, I understand Richard giving the advice, knowing to push people to the 3 feet, knowing our reluctance to approve anything less than that. I guess my concern here is, I view it as being counterproductive if they have to widen the driveway to accommodate shifting the garage over. One, that's probably going to push them over the threshold that they need a formal stormwater review, which in a perverse way might be
Right.
good, but I'm not sure I want to inflict that on them. And, I think the other part of this is, unlike many of the situations we've dealt with, they are keeping, far, twice the required rear yard setback. So there is that factor of, it's not like many garages encroaching on both a rear and a side yard setback requirement. If they had to redo the driveway anyway, I would be in agreement with moving it over. I might even be in agreement with moving it over the 6 feet, but I just don't, I don't know why they widened the driveway at the end, because it goes to nowhere other than they can fit a second car without one being behind the other. So, I mean, my driveway does the exact same thing, but it goes to a 2-car, 100-year-old garage. But I understand whenever that was done so you could have the second car without one car having to move to get the other car out. So I don't have a problem with it as proposed. Well, let me do the conditions and then we can discuss further. I think, as they testified, they should adhere to number 3 and number 4 of the Historic Preservation Commission concerning the lighting and preserving reutilizing the corner boards, and that the downspouts on the south side of the building be directed to the rear of the property rather than towards the neighbor's property. Okay, any further discussion, since we were not of one mind as to what we want to do with placing the garage? Or someone can make a motion.
I propose we pass it as proposed and as you've noted.
With the 3 conditions?
With the preconditions noted, yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
You're not eligible. Correct?
I second.
Correct. He's the bottom man on the totem pole.
I was going to say alternate 4, but okay. So somebody else needs to make a second.
I second.
Okay. Want to call the roll? And so this is to a vote approving it with the 3-foot setback to the side yard and with the 3 conditions.
Chair Harrison.
Yes.
Vice Chair McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Church.
No.
Ms. Harris.
No.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Griffith.
Yes.
Okay, so that is 5
Application's
yeses.
approved. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is that of Aaron Kissel and Meg Menzel for a property located at 144 Union Street. This is an application to construct an accessory dwelling unit to be attached to an existing, to a garage on the property. Property is located in the RO Mountainside Zone District and is designated on township tax maps as Lot 6 and Block 1203. The applicants applied for variance from Montclair Code Section 347 8D2 and 347-34A2A to permit a side yard setback of 2.9 feet for the garage, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum side yard setback of 12 feet. Variances from Montclair Code Section 347-8D2 and 347-22F to permit the longest wall of the accessory dwelling unit to be 42 feet in length and the longest wall of the proposed garage to be 42.9 feet in length, whereas the ordinance provides a maximum building permit for footprint for accessory structures may not exceed 36 feet in any direction. A variance from Montclair Code Section 347-8D3 to permit an accessory dwelling unit with more than 840 square feet of living area, whereas the ordinance provides a maximum permitted floor area for a fully accessible accessory dwelling unit is 840 square feet. The variance from Montclair Code Section 347-8D2 and 347-34A1 to permit the garage to be 18.03 feet high, whereas the ordinance provides a maximum permitted height for accessory structures is 15 feet. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes, they are.
Okay, Mr.
Okay,
Bishop.
good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Alan Tremulak, appearing on behalf of the applicants, Aaron Kissel and Meg Menzel. My clients, husband and wife, the owners of property at 144 Union Street. This application has been filed in order to construct an accessory dwelling unit, or what's commonly referred to as an ADU, in the rear of their property, which is located in the RO Mountainside Zone District. The intention is for the ADU to be attached to the existing detached garage in the rear of the property. And as part of this project, as you'll hear, the garage is to be expanded to make it a more functional garage according to today's standards and needs, and also to provide space for an additional third car in the garage. As I'm sure you all know, it's almost 2 years, a little over 2 years ago, the Township Council amended the zoning ordinance to permit accessory dwelling units in all single-family and two-family zones in the township in order to provide opportunities for people to age in place, live independently without moving out of town, provide options for smaller dwelling units in town. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking this may be the first application this board has considered involving an accessory dwelling
No, we
unit.
had one other that started but disappeared off the face of the earth after they
Well.
started for maybe reasons unrelated to what the application was for.
Right. So, as you'll hear from my client in a few minutes, the applicants have a very specific purpose for wanting to create this accessory dwelling unit on their property. And their intention is to do that in order to provide a home for Ms. Menzel's elderly parents, who coincidentally are renters in Montclair residents at this time, to provide an opportunity for them to age in place, live semi-independently with their daughter, her husband, and their 3 children. That's the reason for creating the accessory dwelling unit. And due to the parents' advancing age and declining health, the ADU has been designed to be fully handicapped accessible, which requires more room in the unit in order to move around, and hence more square footage required to provide an accessible ADU. Just preliminarily, as I mentioned, the project includes substantial renovations to the existing detached garage, The renovations involve demolishing more than 50% of the existing garage structure, which required that we appear before the Historic Preservation Commission to obtain their approval to demolish the garage, and their approval is required, as you know, by the anti-demolition ordinance that the town has enacted. Fortunately, we obtained unanimous approval from the HPC in February of this year to demolish the structure, although it's not going to be totally demolished. So the application we have before you this evening requests 4 variances. 2 of those variances are for pre-existing nonconformities. Firstly, the existing garage, one of the walls that's not being removed from the garage is the existing wall to the west, which is currently located 2.9 feet from the property line. Not unusual for older garages in this town, as this board knows. We're seeking to maintain, to keep that wall and maintain the existing non-conforming 2.9-foot setback. The second non-conformity relates to the height of the garage building. It's currently 18 feet in height. The maximum permitted is 15 feet. The applicants actually were prepared to lower the roof, bring it down to a conforming height. That's what was presented to the HPC. HPC, however, felt strongly that the roof height should remain the same because they're trying to preserve the pitch of the roof because of the historic significance of the building. So, again, we were prepared to provide for a conforming roof height. HPC wanted something different, so we're now seeking a variance. But again, the roof height we're seeking is basically what the same roof height there is today. So the 2 other variances relate to the size of the accessory dwelling unit. We need a variance to permit the accessory dwelling unit to contain approximately 1,243 square feet of area, whereas the ordinance limits ADUs to a maximum of 800 square feet, regardless of how large the property may be. And we're dealing with a fairly large piece of property here in the RO zoning district. The ordinance does allow for an additional 40 feet of a square footage, which would be a maximum of 840, where the ADU is an adaptive reuse of an existing building to make it handicap accessible. So the ordinance is somewhat ambiguous, but whether it's 800 maximum or 840, we still need a variance because we need an ADU of 1,243 feet, in order for it to be accessible, and in order to provide for 2 bedrooms, which are required for the persons who are going to occupy this unit, hopefully with the board's approval. The second variance relating to the size of the ADU relates to the length of one of the walls of the accessory dwelling unit. The ordinance limits the length of any exterior wall of an ADU to a maximum of 36 feet, and we're proposing one of the walls to be 42 feet in length. So those are the 4 variances that we're hoping to have approved this evening. I'm going to begin my presentation with some brief testimony from Mr. Kissel, and then following his testimony, I have Francis Klein, the project architect, will testify, and then following his testimony, we have Peter Steck to provide professional planning testimony in support of the variances. So, having said that, I'd like to ask that Aaron Kissel be sworn.
Mr. Kissel, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address.
My name is Aaron Kissel. I live at 144 Union Street, Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay. Aaron, you're one of the owners of the property at 144 Union Street?
I am.
Okay, and you own that property with your wife, Meg Menzel?
I do.
Okay, and when did you purchase the property?
August of '21.
Okay. Do you have any children?
I have 3.
They live with you in the house?
I did.
Okay. All right, so you've filed this application in order to construct an accessory dwelling unit on your property. Do you have a specific reason that you're seeking to construct this ADU on your property? And if so, explain what it is.
Yeah. When Montclair changed the law to allow ADUs to be built, allow people to age in place, it was sort of a perfect match to where we are in our lives right now. Meg's parents, Shayla and York, who are here today, are looking to live independently as long as they possibly can. And we, as a family, are committed to taking care of them as long as we possibly can. And so the design of the ADU is really meant to provide that independent living for as long as they remain independent, and also create enough space for them as they age to make sure that they can be cared for at home for as long as that's possible.
Okay, where do they currently live, your in-laws?
36 Hawthorne Place.
Okay, not too far away.
0.3 miles.
Looking to bring them a little closer.
A little closer.
Okay. Can you talk about their age, physical, their health, physical condition?
Yeah.
et cetera?
Both Shayla and Jorg are 85, will be 86 this summer. They both are still independent and active, but both of them have had health issues over the last couple of years. And one with ambulatory and one more with executive functioning. And so we want to make sure that we are in a place that we can be there to care for them, but also give them the independence that they need.
Okay. And is it envisioned that they will at some point need handicap accessibility and the...
Yes, currently Jorg has handicap on his car and has issues walking, and we anticipate that that will likely progress over the next couple of years. So the wheelchair accessibility is a primary issue that we're trying to solve for. That also includes accessibility from the garage to the dwelling, that we can get someone in a wheelchair undercover from the garage into the home. So we anticipate that is something that we need to plan for, and therefore we designed it that way.
So you've had your architect design a fully handicap accessible
Yes.
unit, is that right?
Particularly, the bathroom was very important, that we had shower accessibility and toilet accessibility with room for aides or another person to help while they're in those spaces.
Okay. And the proposed unit also contains 2 bedrooms. Can you explain
Yes.
why there's a need for 2 bedrooms?
Yes. Currently, today, they live in a 2-bedroom apartment and have very different sleep and life schedules, so today that's how they are. I think the most important thing is that if one of them needs in-home care, that we can have in-home care and be taken care of in a bedroom while the other one is sleeping. So if we have a 1-bedroom design and the rooms are too small for a caregiver to be in the room, it will basically mean that they would need to, one of them would need to move out or not be able to live there. So we wanted to create enough space so that the bedrooms were big enough for a caregiver, and anticipating that they will have different needs as they do today, that they need 2 bedrooms in terms of how they currently function.
You mentioned a minute ago the garage. Can you talk about the existing garage and why it is you sought permission to demolish it and to construct an expanded or enlarged garage in addition to the ADU?
I mean, our intention from the beginning was to make this project as fit in with the neighborhood and with the house as much as we possibly can, including the architect that we selected, who that's a primary thing that's important to him. So we've tried very hard to make the design match the house and match the neighborhood. In terms of the garage, with Shayla and Jorg still do drive, so we needed a car for them. We also do have an electric car, so we wanted room for charging. We also wanted a little bit of extra space for bikes, and my daughter does do the Watch-On bike bus, so the family does do the bike elements as well.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I have for Mr. Kissel.
Thank you.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
No questions at this moment.
Mr. Church?
No questions, no.
Ms. Harris?
No questions.
Ms. Grant?
No question.
Mr. Cruz?
No questions.
Mr. Griffith?
No questions.
Mr. Moore?
None at the moment.
Then I'll do the question.
Mr. McCulloch?
I don't want to let you off that easy. Would you explain, just in terms of your design elements, I noticed that you have proposed a fireplace in the living area. Would you speak to that in terms of what kind of fireplace you're anticipating?
Gas fireplace.
Gas fireplace. And is that a large fireplace? Is that what we're seeing in terms of the drawing, or?
I think it's a relatively standard fireplace, so
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it's large.
Okay. I was just wondering, in comparison to, I'm presuming that you might have a fireplace within the main
We do,
building.
we do,
and
we do.
Comparatively, it would be around the same size and maybe a little smaller or whatever.
I don't know the answer, to be honest. I would
Okay.
estimate it's a little bit smaller given the size of our main house, but it would match the size of the fireplaces on the second floor.
And then in terms of the two bedrooms, it appears as though you have, again, in terms of the design features, have windows that look out to little garden areas.
The windows in the back are would be placed above where the beds would be, so get natural light, but the beds would be against those. And then there would be windows on both sides. One would be towards the side yard, and one would be towards the main yard.
Yeah. So the side yard, is that behind the garage? Is that
Yes.
what, that's what that is? Yes. And I see plantings, and then, what's that next to the plantings? Because there's a doorway that leads out to that area. I don't know what that,
It could be the HVAC, the condenser is back there.
I see.
And then, let me just find it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So we plan to have a door so you can access the garage from the back, and then plantings between the steps and the sidewall there.
So it is anticipated that your in-laws would be able to enjoy patio time, covered porch time. And you would see that as consistent with sort of normative design features in Montclair.
There's plenty of porches in Montclair.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So yes, and then we spend a lot of time in our backyard. We have outdoor grill, so their ability to be outside and for us to be outside together is the design of that.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, are there any members of the audience who have questions for this witness? Okay, Mr. Tremblay, I want to call your...
All right, we have somebody
Yes.
coming up.
Okay, and this is just an opportunity for questions to this witness, not to make statements. That'll be later.
Thank you, I understand. My name is Frank Rabacki, I'm a resident of town.
Mr. Rebecca, can you give us your address, please?
Sure, it's 398 Upper Mountain Avenue. Did you consider building the ADU as part of the house?
No.
There was a reason, is there any reason you want to share why?
Just as we had stated, that the goal for them and for us was for them to live independently as long as they can.
Okay. And then, is there any reason other than combining it with the garage that the ADU best location was on the existing adjacency
Yeah.
to the garage?
Yes, because it's, we can get them from, they can be on one level, and a wheelchair can get down the garage into the house.
Thank you.
Okay, any other members of the audience who have questions for this witness? Want to
Okay.
call your next witness?
Francis Klein? Good job.
Mr. Klein, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address.
Francis Klein, architect, 38 Park Street in Montclair.
Mr. Klein, I know you've been an architect in town for quite a long time. I'm not sure when you last appeared before this board. So why don't you just begin by providing the board with your professional qualifications as an architect.
Sure. Licensed architect, planner, and interior designer in New Jersey, and also New York and Georgia. I remember Chairman Harrison from the last time I was here.
And I remember you.
Bachelor's degree from Harvard and architectural degree from Yale.
When were you licensed in New Jersey?
1978.
Okay, your license is still in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, how long have you maintained?
We'll accept him.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr. Klein, you were engaged by Aaron Kissel and Meg Menzel to prepare the plans for the project that's the subject of this application?
Yes.
Okay. Since you'll be discussing the plans as part of your testimony, just want to make it clear that the latest set of plans has a revision date of March 3, 2025, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And as Mr. Kissel just mentioned in his testimony, there are basically two related components of this project, the expansion of the garage and the creation of the accessory dwelling unit. So what I'd like you to do first, if you could, is to review for the board the plans, starting with the plans for the garage.
Sure. The garage at the moment doesn't work. You can't get the cars in. It's too narrow. We want to add, with your permission, another 5 feet to the width. Then the cars can get in. And we need a third car bay. There'll be another driver. We put that in the back. That's a relatively unused corner of the property. And that way we don't have a 3-car garage that we would see from Union, which is not typical of Union Street. We did that for historical preservation appropriate reasons also. By widening it, we're able to get electric vehicle charging stations, and we're able to get bike racks. I think we mentioned this once before, the height of the current garage is 15 feet. We lowered it to the ridge to 12 feet because it's on a slope. So you take the average. So the average was then 15 feet, 12, 18, 15. Historical preservation really wanted us to keep the garage ridge height the same. So that's where it is now is 15. It's still 15 feet. That means that because the land slopes, it goes to an average of 18 feet at their request. So that's one of the things that you had talked about.
Right.
We want to keep the materials of the garage similar to the garage that's there now and similar to the Tudor house. It's stucco with half timbering and brick. So we're keeping all those materials. That also was discussed with the Historic Preservation Commission.
So that at the end of the day, the expanded garage will, from the street would look much like the garage looks today. Is that
Exactly. If you
correct?
look down the long driveway, the garage ridge is right where it is now, and the materials are similar too.
And I know historical preservation is important to you.
I very much
Personally.
believe personally in historic preservation. I think Montclair is a very special town. I think that they're wonderful buildings here, and I love working on them. Everyone is unique. It's a fantastic town.
All right, and those considerations enter into the design of the ADU that's going to be attached to the garage as well?
Yes, we pick windows that relate to the windows on the back of the main house, and there are 2/2 windows. They're good windows. The last page of the application has specifications from Marvin in terms of, and Anderson in terms of which type of windows that we're planning on specifying.
Okay. All right, can you then now talk about the plans for the accessory dwelling unit? And I guess maybe starting with the floor plans that you've designed.
Sure. First, I'd like to introduce my associate architectural designer, Gisela Bazzelli. And I'd also like to say, oh, go ahead.
You're you should be sworn if you're going to testify.
Or we just, what's her role going to be, Mr. Tremblay?
She's going to help with the
Explain
digital
the-
presentation, and if I have a question that she knows the answer to.
Okay, then I will swear you in. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address, please.
Gisela Buzzelli, 5 Lincoln Place, Weehawken, New Jersey.
You want to qualify her, Mr. Tremblay?
Yeah, and what is your relationship to Francis Klein
I'm an
and Associates?
associate. I'm an
Oh.
architecture designer.
Yeah, architectural, you have, what is your educational
I
background?
have a bachelor's of architecture and a master's on architectural design and a master's on construction management.
Okay. Are you licensed as an architect?
No, I'm not.
Okay. But you're an architectural
Yes.
designer with
Architectural design.
education, and you assisted in the preparation of
Yes,
these
I have.
plans? And
Yes.
you're familiar with them
Very familiar.
adequately to discuss them?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, so do you want to continue with
Sure.
Gisela's assistance and in
Sure.
describing the floor plans?
Just so the record's clear, at this point, she's just going to be a fact witness. If there's some intermediate category that's necessary, we'll discuss that, but at this point,
Just a fact witness. Yes, absolutely.
Well, first, I'd like to say that this family's application for an ADU presents a compelling rationale for intergenerational living. The grandparents are here with Aaron. All are long-term Montclair residents. As you heard, the grandparents live in a local apartment, and because of some medical situations and conditions, they need to change the way their living space is. In contrast to an assisted living facility's attributes, this family wants to stay together. They want to have the grandparents live in an ADU in the expanded garage so they can enjoy the closeness of the family, the delights of dinners together, game nights, Scrabble and cards, I believe, sports on TV, watching the children grow up, aging in place, and having their medical needs attended to. That's why we want to do this. The plans are from the garage. There's a foyer, and you wind up in the main space, which has a kitchen and a breakfast area and the seating area and the 2 bedrooms in the back. And then the spaces include an ADA bathroom and a laundry area, and the kitchen is also ADA. It's all fully handicapped accessible. I think we passed out a sheet which has square footages on it, which I think you
We're going
distributed.
to come to that. Yeah, I have a
Okay.
separate exhibit, which we haven't handed to the board yet.
Sure.
We'll come to that in a minute. So just to understand the number of rooms as you've described them, you have the 2 bedrooms, and it appears to me that they're both similar in size.
Similar, one is a little bit bigger for site reasons.
You have kitchen, bathroom,
laundry
area, and then you have what appears to be, combined living room, dining room
Breakfast
area.
area, breakfast area, yeah. Yes.
Okay, and then you have the foyer in the...
To get from the garage into the ADU, yeah.
And that's to allow to go directly from the garage into the interior of the ADU without
Right.
having to go outdoors.
Correct.
Okay.
Protected undercover.
Okay. And as I think you've already said, the ADU has been designed to be fully handicapped accessible, correct?
Yes.
And does it comply with the requirements of the New Jersey barrier-free subcode?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. Then let's talk about the size of the ADU as you've designed it. What's the total square footage?
1234.
Okay, and you're aware that the Montclair's ADU ordinance limits the size of an ADU to 800 square feet maximum, no matter how large the property might be. You can't have an ADU greater than 800 square feet, with the possibility of adding 40 additional feet for handicap accessibility, although the ordinance seems to limit that to an adaptive reuse as opposed to a new building.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
You're aware of those limitations. I'm going to now I'd like to hand out an exhibit. I have copies for the board, which I guess we'll mark as A1.
Yes.
So I've handed out, we've marked as Exhibit A1, and I've handed out copies to the board. This one-page exhibit, which has a heading down in the lower left, accessible design. Do you have that in front of you?
Accessible diagram, yeah.
All right.
That's right.
So, before we come to this, let me ask you this question. When you designed this and saw that the square footage amounted to over 1,200 square feet, did you consider the possibility of reducing the size of the ADU in order to more closely comply, to the requirements of the ordinance?
We tried very hard, but with this particular family's needs, we need this kind of square footage.
Okay. So you were not able to reduce the size to
No.
comply with the ordinance and also meet the needs of the
Correct.
intended occupants of the unit? Is that what you're
That's
saying?
right.
All right. And then, so explain to the board what you've shown here or attempted to show on Exhibit A1.
Sure. Well, this family needs 2 bedrooms for the reasons that Aaron Kissel was talking about. So that's some of it. And the handicapped accessibility winds up, if you look at the chart in the box on the left, we need, I'll round it off, 165 square feet for the accessible bathroom, 179 square feet for the accessible kitchen, 358 for the bedrooms, and 541 for the open plan living area. I'd like to please take a look on the plan. You see the circles, I think there's 4 of them, with a dimension 5 feet. Those are the required ADA turning radiuses. So that's 4 of them. And then the shaded areas, which you see in the bathroom and the laundry and the kitchen, are all ADA requirements. Aisleways, 40 inches or 3'4" aisleway minimum, and pull down in front of a dishwasher or a washer dryer that's in the middle of the plan, and getting to a sink in the bathroom. So if you look at the second box, additional floor area, and again, I'll round them off. We need another 45 square feet in the kitchen and 15 square feet in the laundry closet, and 48 square feet in the bathroom, and 4.5 square feet in the shower. So we need 112 square feet to make these functional spaces accessible. So that's part of it. So I think we need the other bedroom. I do want to say that we need a bedroom that could handle, as Aaron Kissel said, possibly a home health aide that's helping to be in there. At some point, we might need a hospital bed that's bigger too. So we need another bedroom, and we need a slightly bigger bedroom, and we need the additional space for the handicapped accessibility. And we want the unit to be livable. If the grandkids come over and want to play Scrabble or cards, we need a breakfast table that you can play, grandparents and grandkids can play cards and games at. And we need an area where if they watch Sunday night football on TV, that's possible too. And there are windows on the, you see a bunch of windows on the left-hand side of the plan. Those windows are for the grandparents to watch the grandkids play in the grass area, which is the yard and back of the house. So that's all thought about in terms of making this a really good place for an extended family, which we strongly feel is the intent of why Montclair has approved an ADA law, and not every town is as forward-thinking as Montclair. I think Princeton is, and some of the other ones, but most of them don't have it. So Montclair is way ahead in terms of thinking of intergenerational uses of a suburban family.
Just one final question regarding Exhibit A1. You've indicated on there are 5 hatched areas that are shown. Now, they're shaded, but the shading is a little bit light, but they're identified separately as hatched areas, and that's where you calculate the numbers that are shown
in the second lower
chart.
box. Correct. That's right.
Again, coming up with about almost 113 additional square feet needed just to provide accessibility in the kitchen, laundry room, bathroom, and shower.
For instance, you can't have a stackable washer dryer because you can't reach it in a wheelchair, so they have to be side by side. Okay, right? But that takes space, and you need space in front of it to be able to access it. That's typical of the kinds of things that you run into.
Okay. Can you talk about the typical apartment sizes or room sizes for like a studio apartment, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, et cetera? And perhaps as you're discussing those, provide your opinion as to whether, it's feasible to provide an accessory dwelling unit suitable for these occupants, and limiting it to 800 square feet or perhaps 840 square feet as the maximum allowed under the ordinance.
Sure. The typical common apartment sizes for a studio might be 300 to 600 square feet. A 1-bedroom might be 500 to 1,000 square feet. A 2-bedroom is 800 to 1,200 square feet without the ADA additional requirements. And from a planning point of view, a secondary dwelling with ADA accommodations needs to be somewhere between 1,200 and 1,300 square feet, providing space for a family in a suburban setting like Montclair.
Okay. Final question, I believe. I just wanted to direct your attention to the final comment contained in the report or memorandum from the Historic Preservation Commission to this board dated March 10, 2025. and I'll read it and ask you to respond to it. Quote, "The commissioners recommended that the roof pitch of the accessory structure should match the pitch of the main house."
We could do that, but it's a Tudor, so we started like this to try to get the 15 feet average. They said, we want the ridge to be 15 feet where it is now, so that put us where the average is 18. If I go to a Tudor, that's going to happen. So it'll be, okay, it'll be a Tudor, it'll be steeper, but it's going to be more than 18 for the average once I start doing that. So I'm flexible, but those are the issues.
Wouldn't the roof have to be significantly higher because you're also widening the roof, the garage structure, so?
You know, yeah, it would be higher.
Substantially in excess.
Substantially higher, because it's wider 5 feet this way, so it'll be a big steep roof.
And your preference would be to match the existing garage height?
I think if you're looking down the driveway from Union Street and it's 15 feet to the ridge now, and we have it 15 feet to the ridge in the proposal, if that's all right. When you're looking down, it will be almost an imperceptible change from terms of the 5 feet a little bit extra to the side. So I think that's reasonable to keep it at the same 15 feet high.
Oh,
now.
Okay. The one thing I neglected to ask you to discuss, and perhaps Gisela can pull them up on the screen, is to just review the exterior elevations for the ADU.
So, top right, that's the stucco with the vertical half timbering. That's typical of Tudors and typical of this house. 2 garage doors with some lights. I heard you talk about that earlier. There's a row of glass in each one. And then there's a little porch so that the grandparents can sit there under cover if it's raining and watch the kids. And there are windows, as I mentioned, from the living space and breakfast table area so you can see onto the green grass play area. And then in the back, if we move over one, that's that door we were talking about to get to the air conditioning equipment. And then those are the 2 triple windows that Aaron Kissel mentioned that are over the beds with the headboard. And then that's around the other side where there's the back bedroom has windows to the west. And the garage has some windows there to get light into the garage, which we also talked about.
And the exterior is going to be stucco?
Stucco and brick base and half timbering where appropriate.
So is it your intention to try to match the design, the character, the feel of the main house as well as other houses in the neighborhood?
Exactly. It's 3-coat stucco.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for Mr. Klein. Thank you.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Klein. I have a variety of questions for you, and I think they basically fall into the categories of ADA and personal safety, fire safety. Okay. So, but I'm going to begin with the garage. So, first of all, just to clarify a couple of things. In terms of the garage, and you spoke to the pitch of the roof, will there be any storage area over the vehicles?
I don't think.
No, it'll be
I don't think so.
It'll be both.
You'll have to come to the microphone if you're speaking, please.
Is it on? The garage will be vaulted inside, on the top, so that
Okay.
they could have the bikes hanging on the walls,
Okay.
so there'll be no storage.
All right, thank you. So, I noticed that there is a proposed sump pump towards the rear of the garage. Do you see that by the tandem parking? Okay, can you speak to that in terms of the necessity of the sump pump? Is there some historical reality of water in that area?
Well, it's more like a precaution, because, I mean, you have a lot of flooding in that has occurred through the town. So it is always good in a new building that is close to grade in one side because of the slope, that you may get some water that could potentially become an issue. And if you have the sump pump, you could resolve it. I mean, we're going to put perimeter drainage that will be tied to the storm system that's going to be designed once the project goes through the approvals.
And is that related only to the garage, or would that be for the entire perimeter of the property?
That would be related to the garage, because the ADU has a crawl space, so it really, wouldn't have an issue, and there's a floor drain in the crawl space that will connect to the perimeter drainage and to sump up in the event that there was an issue.
Thank you. You mentioned, well, actually, Mr. Kissel did, but I think you can speak to this, that within the garage, there are several EV stations, charging stations. I think I counted 3?
4.
There are 4, okay.
No, the three, sorry.
Okay.
No, that's the meter.
So, what's that, I'm wondering if that is excessive, or what's the rationale for having so many charging stations within that garage?
Well, the idea is that eventually, if they move to 3 cars which are electrical, you will need 3 plugs, and in order to charge them overnight, right, for ease and functionality. And since they are pulling the power to this new property on a new meter, it's the perfect timing to upgrade for future.
I want to circle back to this in just a second, but just in terms of the bike storage, are we talking only about traditional bicycles, or are we talking also about electric bikes as well, the potential of electric bikes?
Just regular bikes.
Just regular bikes, no potential for electric bikes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, so, the wall that, well, I'll come to the wall, okay. So, as we move into the apartment itself, thank you for, the explanation that you gave in terms of the design qualities and the importance of caring for disability needs. But I noticed that on the wall that connects the garage to this unit, you have the washer and dryer, you have the gas range, and of course, then there's the other kitchen area. I don't know if there's cooktops or whatever in that area. But when it comes to putting the hood, the gas range and hood, and I'm going to assume that the dryer may be a gas dryer, or I don't know if it's electric dryer.
It's a gas dryer.
It is a gas dryer. So the question I'm wondering about is, how do you anticipate ventilation?
It vents up through the roof. So, okay.
Because and goes where?
I'll show you. One second.
On the roof. Straight up and out.
Correct. So you have these vents here. This is the bathroom vent. Then there's the laundry vent, and there's the kitchen vent.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is for the garage itself, and this is the fireplace. And then we have the venting associated with the AC unit that is in the crawl space.
Okay.
That's coming through the walls in the bathroom. And there's also the other vent that is associated with the hot water heater that is tankless. It's all going through the roof.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. So, then the wall that exists between the garage and the unit itself is a,
It's a fire-rated 1 hour wall.
Fire graded 1 hour, okay.
Yes, and the door itself would also be fire-rated.
And that takes into consideration those EV units that are, 2 of them that are attached to that wall.
Yes.
There's a lot of things going on in that wall.
Well, it's not in the wall because in the roof, the venting comes from the hood and it'll be duct like the kitchen hood. So it will come in the wall straight up, and then it'll be buried in the rafters. So it's never going into the garage. Nothing of the side of the ADU.
But I think you can hear within my line of questioning, there's a concern about
Yeah.
if there is a fire, okay, there's a lot of activity along this wall on both sides of it.
Well, this is not 1 hour wall, which
Yes.
is per the code, and it's insulated and separated and with blocking. It wouldn't be as any other apartment.
Okay. So, the question, I guess the next question that I have, which is not unrelated to this, so, and that is, you have, in terms of the presentation, we have the 2 bedrooms that are to the rear of the accessory unit. Where are the exits? I know there's the one that goes into the garage. I'm assuming that there's one that goes to the covered porch. Are there other exits?
Well, there's sliding doors here.
Yes.
And there's another door here.
Yes. And those are the only exits?
Correct.
Okay. So now going back to the concern that I'm expressing around the potential of fire, and we've heard the explanation that the reason why this unit needs to be designed to the scope that it is because we're dealing with emerging handicapping situations, okay? So it seems to me that the individuals that would be occupying the 2 bedrooms, if there were to be an emergency situation, they would have to bypass all of the electrical areas, the cooking areas, the fireplace areas, in order to be able to make an exit from this unit. Can you speak to that, please?
I mean,
Use the mic.
all the windows are egressable windows, just like is required by code. And the travel distance from the back of the bedrooms to the 2 front doors meets the code. So, I'm not following.
I guess the question I have is have you considered the possibility of having maybe patio doors on either side of the fireplace, for example, so that the occupants of the bedrooms would not have to travel so far to exit, should there be a situation in which they needed to get out of there quickly? And we've already heard that there's a possibility that you're anticipating, there's a possibility of maybe a wheelchair or someone that might have to be in a hospital bed. So again, my question, and I understand that this is on the property that the other family members are living in the larger house, but they still have to get there in order to help get them out of this space if the situation emerges. So that's the question I'm really asking. Have you considered the possibility of creating another exit area where they would be able to get out of there should a situation require. Yes.
I think it's a great idea, and we haven't thought of it, so
Okay.
we would be very open to it.
Okay, so I would like for you to consider that.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate
It
it.
But it would require another set of stairs.
I would like for you to consider it.
Yeah, well,
Okay? Thank you.
that's fine. That's a good point.
The other, I just wanted to be clear, just in terms of the covered porch, looks like it's a pretty large patio area, and I'm assuming that that's all flat. So from the driveway, it's a flat area all the way to the sliding doors. Is that would be correct? Okay.
That's right.
And I think you've already said that the doorway from the garage into the foyer is also flush. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I just, I think one of the reasons why I'm raising the questions the way that I am, Mr. Chairman, is because this is this is the first opportunity that we've had to really consider one of these accessory units. And if there is any kind of a precedent for more senior members of our community living in these spaces, then I think we need to make sure that we set the precedent correctly at the beginning. Because I think for me, it's not so much an issue of the size, the square footage. It's about making sure that the design appropriately accommodates those persons that will be living in this space, so that we have taken diligence to make sure that we have cared for their benefit.
I agree with you completely.
All right. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
I have, yeah. This is a great plan, and I think it shows a lot of forethought. My question is, it's not a deep question, just a question. How is the plumbing, electricity, and all the accessory things going to be brought into this ADU?
We're going to trench from the main house, right?
Correct, yes.
There's not going to be a separate,
Well, there's the separate meters. The owners wanted to have meters independently for them. So you
Okay.
could see how we have a gas meter, a water meter, and an electrical meter in the back. So it'll come through the driveway
yep,
and be connected to this building. There's an existing electrical panel already there that is connected to the house. So there is a conduit or a trenching that's already exists
okay.
that will
there
have
won't
to be
there-
widened.
There won't be an electrical panel solely for the ADU, though,
Yes, but it will be in the garage
in the garage. And
Yes.
that's just for their use.
for their use. yeah.
So if something happened in the main house where the electricity went out, they wouldn't necessarily.
No, it would have nothing to do with them.
Okay. And the same thing with the plumbing and water
Yes,
flow and all that other stuff?
yes, it's all independent.
Okay. And it'll all be independent to that unit so that the unit becomes like self-sufficient?
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Just a few clarifications. So if you're coming from the main house, how would you, I noticed that there's stairs up to the porch. Assuming someone's coming in on a wheelchair, how would you get up to the porch from the house?
Well, the people who are handicapped will be coming from the driveway, and that is a raised platform. So those steps are to connect you to the yard.
Okay, so the driveway and that patio are flush?
Yes.
Okay. And then on page A1, there's a note that says a ½ inch step down. Is that correct? From the garage to the foyer?
That's a requirement by the code because of the gas that's in the air, and that's the minimal allow difference between one level to another for handicap.
because carbon monoxide falls.
Got it, okay. And then on your elevation A3, the proposed east elevation, it looks like there's a set of sliding doors. Where does that exit onto?
That's, those are stationary doors. The grandparents wanted, no, it won't open.
Okay.
The grandparents wanted to be able to sit in the dining room and look at the kids playing.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Ms. Grant?
Are all the appliances full size?
No, they are smaller. So they are 24 inches, the range. But because we need to be able to have a ADA sink, we need to be able to have a work surface area, so it has to be open. And in order to meet all the requirements, we have to have smaller appliances. Except for the refrigerator, which is, we went with the smallest, but not too small, because it's hard to find something that it's, I think there was 33, 36, something like that.
Okay, thank you. Did you consider going with an en-suite bathroom?
Well, there's two of them, and they want to be able to, use it and share it together. So that's why the toilet room has its own room. So like they could have a little bit of privacy.
And I mentioned obviously the appliance size and an en-suite bathroom, or even putting a fireplace. I don't know about the fireplace inside the room, but because I like the plan a lot. I like the floor plan. It does exceed, a lot. It goes over the requirement a lot, and I think that probably if the goal was to try to reduce that, I do see areas here where I think there's a lot of, when you went over, there's a lot of family considerations that one by one increase the size. And if those are like non-negotiables, like the extra windows to look outside, but there is room to, come a little closer to, the requirement. And that's it. No problem.
Mr. Cruz?
I just wanted to ask a question again for a clarification about the sump pumps. You said that as of right now, that the sump pump is not used.
Well, it's new.
Okay, so the garage doesn't have a history of like flooding at all?
No, I mean, what they had was a little bit of rotting because the foundation is basically on grade.
Right.
But it's a grade beam, right? And the plate sits right on the grade, and they had a lot of rotting in the past, right? So by us raising the plate and putting that brick bottom, it's going to resolve a lot of those problems. But in most cases, when we do new construction, in a place that is very close to one end is sloping in this direction. So in that corner, there is a possibility that you could have some water retention in that area. So that's what the sump is there, in case of emergency.
Okay.
But it's not new.
And then my last question would be with respect to the 18-foot height variance you need for the accessory dwelling unit. That's a function of the topography.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Sloping to the east.
So you could see here, this is 15, but in this side, it's 18.
Right.
And as it goes around, it becomes less. So let me show you the. You see how this is going? It's going from here, it's 18, and then over here, it's 15.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we put the sump pump in that corner, because that's where everything's beginning from the other property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Griffith?
You have a very challenging topography. Clearly, the elevations illustrate it the most, make it the most obvious. So it seems like average elevation is 3 feet below first floor, and then the code would, your dimension from first floor to the top of the roof pitch is 18, so your variance is really 21 feet, not 18 feet, correct?
I think it's the average, you go every 10 feet and you take a spot. So it's the average.
And that's what, but
And the 18 feet is.
the average is on
It's the average.
it's 3 feet below the first floor, is that correct? I thought that's what it said on your drawing.
But the average grade around the property determines the 18, not from every point. Does that
The
make
average
sense?
grade around the footprint of the ADU, correct?
Of the combined of them. because
Combined with the garage, yeah.
Because both accessories have to comply to the 15.
Oh, also the garage, so that's what's rounding it up. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
You have what appears to be a vestibule if it had a second door, but it doesn't. So there's one door that you open to go into the garage or to go into the house. And I would suggest you put a second door in because you don't want everybody that goes into the garage is walking into the ADU.
There's a door right here.
Let's look at the plan.
The plan, yeah. Here.
There's a door here, and there's
And-
a door there.
Correct, but there's no door between that, what I would call a vestibule space, and the ADU straight in front of you. So if I want to come out and get in my car, I'm going to open that door into what could be a vestibule, and then I'm going to open the door to the garage. But when I walk in that first door, I'm in the conditioned space and room of the ADU. So I'm saying if you put a second door there, you have a vestibule, and you separate the circulation of these two. If you have a car that burns gasoline, then you park it in the garage. You have a door that's directly bringing gas fumes into the house, that's not good either. It'd be to your advantage to have a vestibule, and it would save energy. But other than that, you don't have to do it.
We could put a door
We can put a door
here.
there, that's a good suggestion.
I think it would be advantageous.
I think it's-
Sir.
Don't we have this one here? He wants one here. Yeah. Oh, here. There, yeah. That's fine. That's a good idea.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
So going back to the sump pump that you have towards the back of the garage, and that the topography of, I guess, yeah, the current topography. So tell me a little bit about the drainage that you have set up within your plan to address potential flooding and all that.
So we are intending to do a storm retention that will be designed right after we assumably get an approval, right? That will be designed by a civil engineer. So the idea is that it would have like a tank that retains the storm that will take care of the entire property.
Catch basin or?
I think what was described to me in the proposal, that it would be like a concrete tank that it gets buried. And then it picks up all the perimeter drainage of the ADU and any other stuff that is coming because of the topography of the property in the rear yard.
And then where would the runoff go to?
I don't know that. It hasn't been designed. So we're waiting for the approval of the plan before we go too far with the decision where to put it and how to design it. According to Richard, it was something that we could table for now until the approval of the actual project. So I wouldn't be able to answer you at this point, but once we have it, we could share it with you guys.
We're definitely going to take care of that. It's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important for the family too. They don't want issues with the water runoff, and they're also going to do some landscaping.
Right.
So that will all be addressed once we go into full construction documents.
Sure, okay. Right, and of course, our winters are quite cold, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of freezing, and
Yes.
Since we're doing intergenerational housing, certainly something to take into consideration, especially since we're having a lot more floods nowadays.
Correct.
And just being mindful of our neighbors, that the runoff go somewhere that's not intrusive or into the driveway, just so that it's conducive, all right?
Well, we have a French drain in front of the doors that's going to collect the water from the driveway and the sump pump. And then we have perimeter drainage at the bottom of the footing that will eventually tie back to the storm retention system. So that will alleviate anything for the neighbor that we're the closest to.
Okay. And is there any, right, this ADU, it's something new that we're looking at.
Correct.
My observation, seeing how the roof extends over to, over the garage. So it almost can look like one property, right? And when I say that, are there any thoughts of eventually possibly turning the garage into a livable space where it becomes enclosed? I'm just thinking about how this structure will be even after, right? Long after. And its intended use.
No plans at all for that.
Okay.
We really are designing it for our family today, and no plans for that whatsoever.
And they have 3 kids, so I'm sure they're going to have plenty of cars.
Yeah. Any lighting along the driveway up to the main house?
We will definitely need to do that. We haven't done the lighting and the landscaping plans yet, but that will be important for us to get there and for them to get back.
Okay. No more questions. Thank you.
Just to follow up on what Mr. Moore was asking, I mean, we received extensive comments from the board engineer, and I'm assuming Mr. Klein is not really in a position, based on the answers we got, as to none of this has been designed to answer those comments.
Have you seen the engineer's report?
Well, the engineer's report was requesting for a storm retention system.
Most of the, not all, but many of the comments were.
Yeah.
We're going
to address it once we start doing the design.
Absolutely, like Gisela was saying.
I mean,
We're definitely going to do that.
Concern, and, I mean, I could easily just say adhere to everything in the engineer's report, but I'm not sure once you have the engineer design it, he's going to say, oh, no, we can't do that, or we have to do it differently type things. And, okay, but you're not in a position to, I can't go through that.
No, I'm sure we'll have a discussion with the civil engineer, and we'll do it properly.
My other question, or set of questions, is going to be you've testified in terms of calculation, building height, there's difference in elevation, there's stairs that lead down from the existing driveway, the contours on the survey show basically there's a 3-foot drop, but yet you indicated that the covered porch area is going to be at the same level as the driveway. And I guess, given that by the time you get to the eastern edge of the covered porch, you're 3 feet lower, how are you going to address that, both in terms of the covered porch, but the whole first floor elevation? Is that where, is the crawl space going to be underneath it, and you're going to keep the existing contours, or?
Let's look at the elevation. We have a crawl space because we have we're using the slope.
So we kept the slope the same, right? And from the driveway, you come to these terraces, because they used to have retaining walls with landscaping formerly, right? So that platform where the porch is will be a retaining wall. And after the retaining wall, you have the stairs that you see here. You see the stairs right here? So these are retaining walls, and the plant a retaining wall, right? So that's what's causing the crawl space underneath, which is going to be used for all the mechanical and the ductwork.
And is that going underneath the entire ADU?
Correct.
And so where the ADU is next to the garage, it's
It's on grade.
going to be on grade, and then it's going to slope down, so there'll be probably a 3-foot difference, but you're not changing the existing grade.
Not very much. I mean, unless it's going to be done for landscaping purposes, like when they put the planters or whatever. And that would be done with the landscaper, which will be our next phase of the job.
Then, is there current, for the wall and a half wall that you're retaining on the garage, is there an existing foundation for that?
I think it's a,
It'll be a new foundation. All these walls will be new.
Okay, so in reality, the existing wall on the western side is going to be removed?
it's going to be rebuilt.
It's going to be rebuilt.
So it
It's
doesn't-
going to be extended and rebuilt to meet the new project. So at some point, it's going to be a low retaining wall, and then as it meets the new porch and the platform, the paving area, it's going to be higher, but all that is new.
Okay, so what is the rationale for our keeping the existing setback?
Couple of reasons. First, 3, I think. Historical, when you're looking down the driveway from Union, the edge of the garage will, in the future, will be exactly where it is now. That's the first one. The second one is, it's the highest point, so if I start moving things, all the height stuff gets worse because of the slope is going this way. And that corner of the property is, it's the least used by the family, so that it is the best part of the property for making improvements for the intergenerational family.
Okay, and then you also testified about size of dwelling units, and I guess to just do the application we just approved, which involved 6 2-bedroom units, which went in size from 707, 753, 757, 812, 816, and 809 square feet that were, and I could point to any other number of projects we've approved which had 2-bedroom apartments with that size, and I'm struggling for the justification for having something 1,240 square feet. You know, the ADU part gets that a little bit of the way there, but certainly doesn't justify being 400 plus square feet larger than what the ordinance allows, and I want to understand the justification for that.
Oh, sure. The bedrooms that this family needs are going to be bigger dimensions because of a couple of comments. Aaron mentioned possibly a caretaker, and also the comment possibly hospital beds. They're larger than an apartment-type, condominium-type bedroom. That's for this family's needs. And if you, as you just said, if you look at all the requirements for ADA, that adds another 112, 113 square feet to the requirements, and that's what brings it up to something that is very appropriate for this family.
Other questions from members of the board?
I just had one more, and this one might be more so for Mr. Trembulac, just on what the thoughts were behind waiting until compliance for site plans, be it like landscaping, lighting, stormwater, et cetera.
Well, I don't think we need site plan review for this, approval for this application, so.
Well, Mr. Trembulac, that in one sense is true.
Right.
But since you're requesting variances,
Yeah, okay.
and my guess is that Mr. Steck is going to at least partially rely on, I mean, on justifying the variances on, the benefits, whatever, for this. I think we're entitled to understand what are the potential negative impacts,
Okay.
including stormwater lighting. It's in the same way, I'm sure he's going to testify as to what the positive aspects of we need to also consider the negative impacts.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, the question was respect to lighting and landscaping and stormwater?
Correct, yes.
Okay, well, the plans do provide for some landscaping improvements, don't they?
We were going to do that after this phase.
After this phase. We are showing the potential of the bushes that we want around the ADU, and just to hide the height of the heaviness of the crawl space, so that it's more gentle. So that's an intention, but there will be landscaping that the family wants, as far as trees and small bushes and flowers that has been talked about, that we will be doing it in the next phase, in conjunction to the storm retention.
Mr. Griffith?
Are you aware that the size of the ADU is being reconsidered by the planning board and by city council right now? It was on the agenda, the last agenda council meeting, and therefore, if you had opportunity, I would suggest you meet with your councilman and/or people you know on the planning board and make your case. I find your case very compelling, though I find it a bit of a reach for what I feel we are entitled to make decisions on. It's my personal opinion. So, but act now, because you have an opportunity to influence how they define the new ADU code.
Thank you, that's a good
Thank you.
suggestion.
Coming back to the question, is there any lighting that's proposed on the plan? Wall-mounted lighting?
We haven't.
Yeah, there's sconces in between the garage doors. There's sconces left and right of the entry to the foyer, and there's inner sconces in the inside the porch, and then there's a fan that we're going to put on the vaulted ceiling, so that they could sit there, during the hot weather comfortably.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any lighting currently in the driveway?
Uh,
So there's none currently and nothing proposed at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. I can state on behalf of my clients, Mr. Chair, I reviewed the engineer's report. His comments are fairly typical comments, certainly with respect to stormwater. We have to satisfy him, and we would certainly commit to comply with the comments and recommendations in Mr. Hernandez's report, or otherwise resolve the issues to his satisfaction. We weren't prepared to deal with engineering issues tonight, but we certainly know we have to satisfy him anyway in order to get building permits.
Absolutely, we're planning on doing it.
But on the other hand, one of the things we need to consider is whether there'll be any impacts of the stormwater, and that's our role, not our engineer's role to, give us, he can do the technical part, but the actual impacts that'll have is our decision.
I mean, I can certainly appreciate the cost of having to do soil testing in accordance with best management practices, but just at first glance, when it comes to placing like a storm tank in the backyard and having to traverse 250 feet without seeing any of the underground storm sewer systems in the survey, it's tough to be certain that there's the clarity of what a stormwater system could look like. And then with the sump pump in the garage as well, there's no ascertation as to what the seasonal high water table is either. And so these are just some concerns, just on first glance.
Yeah, and I don't think, and, we, as you know, we we will condition on a number of the recommendations. I think it's the basics of knowing where, how, and not needing every detail of the calculations that we would normally have to feel comfortable that what's being proposed is feasible and not impacting the neighboring properties.
Could that be reviewed on, like, on a desk level, like if we show you the plan?
Have you retained an engineer at this point?
Yes, we have.
Who is the engineer?
God. Honestly, right now, I don't remember, but we do have an engineer that, Harrison is.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
Harrison.
he actually emailed us a week ago when asking us where we were with the approvals. Sorry. So I could get you his information and send it over to her.
I think, Mr. Trembulak, I mean, you know, it's your choice how you want to proceed. If you want to proceed tonight with what you have and have Mr. Steck testify and go to a vote, that's, you know, that's one alternative. If you want to, you know, have your engineer discuss with our engineer the comments and do what I'll call a basic design. This is where the dry well is going to go. This is how the piping is going to get there. You know, this is how we're going to meet the green infrastructure requirements. And again, not in detail, but this is how this can be met. You know, and present that to us as part of the case. You can proceed that way.
Well, I think I would like to do that, Mr. Chairman, out of abundance of caution. But I would also like to put Mr. Steck's testimony on tonight since he's here and available, and I'm not so sure he's available at the next meeting.
And someone else who wanted Mr. Steck tonight will be very upset if he doesn't testify, probably.
Yes, I know who that person might be, yes. But I got him first, so so I've got to put him on tonight.
But it may make sense for Mr. Steck to come back even with, you know, based on, we'll see how that goes. But if you want to put Mr. Steck on.
I think I'd like to, yes. Is there anything further for?
Well, let's do, are there any members of the audience? And I'm assuming Mr. Klein will come back, just so there may need to be follow-up based on what
Absolutely
the
right.
engineer.
Sure.
Mr. Rubacki.
Frank Rubacki again. I'm wondering why you're metering the ADU for the grandparents.
Could you hear it? It just seemed like it was the right thing to do. We didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Okay, you realize you don't have to have separate service going into the ADU. I checked with the building department, the water utility, and the planning department.
Thank you for.
No, I was curious of myself. So.
That's what we thought we should do, but
Okay.
if we don't,
Okay.
that may be fine also.
You've made several comments, your attorney made several comments at the HPC meeting about the HPC review. I don't believe the referral notes from the HPC review were published. Did you receive a referral?
We have a report
I
from
think
the
we have a
HPC.
report from them, yeah.
Does the zoning board have the report?
Yes.
Okay, because it's important to my question. One of the major considerations was the original design called for a 15-foot average roof. That was the presentation, and that was
Right.
your desire.
That's correct.
And it's still your desire if the HPC hadn't insisted on 18 feet, correct? Okay. The HPC, the applicant, Mr. Tremblak, all unanimously agreed that this property was minimally visible from the street, almost to the point where they wanted to disregard it. It wasn't going to affect the character. So my question is, if you argue that it's minimally visible from the street, won't affect the neighborhood character, what's the justification for, and it's not an historic building anymore, because it's a total demolition. It's new construction. It's not adaptive reuse. What's the justification for a variance to go to 18 feet?
Because historic was very, very strong about keeping the ridge height the same.
Okay, but that's still a referral to the zoning board. That, they don't have any authority to dictate that.
That's a legal question, right?
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. And we do agree this is not adaptive reuse in any way.
That sounds right.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. These were the softball questions. Actually, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate
Are
it.
there any other members in the audience who have questions for this witness? Okay, call Mr. Steck.
Okay, Peter Steck?
Thank you all.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Peter Steck, S-T-E-C-K, 80 Maplewood Avenue, Maplewood, New Jersey.
Mr. Chair, offering Mr. Steck as an expert professional planner. The board's well familiar with
Your
him.
license is in good standing, Mr. Steck?
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
We accept it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Steck, you're familiar with the property and the application that's before the board?
I am.
You're prepared to discuss the variance relief that's being sought this evening?
Yes,
Okay, and I see you have an exhibit to hand out to the board.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, this is Exhibit A2.
I'll just identify in more
A2.
detail what A2 is. It was prepared by me on March 16th of this year. First page as a 2020 aerial photograph on the left with a portion of the tax maps with the zoning lines on the right. The next page has pictures taken by me on March 15th of this year, showing the subject property as you see from the street. And again, this is winter time, but you still can only see essentially a portion of the garage in the rear. You have close-up pictures on the lower right-hand side. You see the drop in elevation. It's currently handled by a planter. Next page, P3, is a perspective of both the garage and the main house in the rear. And as you can see, the grass slopes generally down away from the garage. The bottom picture is an aerial view, probably 100 feet in the air. What's not easily apparent is that there's a cluster of accessory buildings on the other properties that are near this. So, everyone that where the properties abut, they have other buildings there that are non-residential. P4 has kind of a cartoon version of the addition on the left-hand side, and an aerial view on the right where I've outlined the existing garage in black, the expanded garage in blue, and the accessory dwelling unit in yellow. The next page I'll talk about in a minute, but it has some background when the ordinance for ADUs was adopted, as well as a memo from Janice Talley in preparation for a new master plan or reexamination report. And then I'll end up talking a little bit about the last page, which highlights the relief that we need. So just to lay some foundation, this property has a large lot. It's significantly larger than the minimum lot size. It's 34,518. It's has 50 feet wider frontage than the minimum of 100. As you can see, the garage is well back from the street, so it's not visible easily, or part of the garage is visible, but all of the new addition is really not visible from the street. The application is to demolish more than 50% of the garage, and that includes the roof, but reconstruct, again, greater than 50% of the garage to make it more usable, to accommodate 3 cars with charging stations, and to abutting that, to put in the new construction, fully new construction, which is the accessory dwelling unit. You've already, your ordinance doesn't say that it has to be used for handicapped people, or has to be used necessarily for a parent, but that's the focus of this application, as you heard. It's to age in place for family members that are already in Montclair, but will be close to the younger family. The surrounding area is all single family, as you can see on the first page of A2. There are a number of houses in the area that are fairly large. And this lot, again, is fairly deep, more frontage, more square footage than the minimum allowed in the zone. Your master plan in 2023, recommended the current zoning of the property, and as you know, it concentrated on circulation and the business areas. But the governing body is going further than what was in that document. And if you'll turn to page P5 of A2, the ordinance was initially adopted a couple years ago. It has been revised, and apparently it's currently being considered. And it's significant to me that the purpose of the ordinance is to kind of expand a range of housing uses that you have in town rather than contract it. If the story was, we don't want garages more than 400 square feet, and we were coming in with 500 square feet, I understand there's a lot of concern because we're going in the wrong direction. The direction here is Montclair wants to take a fairly leadership position in the state, and actually my own town, Maplewood, has done that, but you want to accommodate smaller households, again, accessory units. And if you look at the whereas purposes of the ordinance, 2 of them are right on target. Whereas older residents living on fixed income are especially at risk and face the possibility of having to leave the township, taking with them a lifetime of experience that benefit the entire community. Again, the parents are moving from Hawthorne Towers to here, staying in the community. The next one, whereas people with disabilities face considerable challenges when finding adaptive housing and risk having to live away from family and trusted support networks in order to find appropriate living environments. So those are kind of pretty much on target, what we're trying to do this evening. Janice Talley has prepared a memo dated May 16th of 2023, and I excerpted, and this is part of the study for a reexamination report, but there's concern about the expense of housing, et cetera, and the response that Janice has drafted for the committee. The township has addressed this by adopting new accessory dwelling unit ordinance in 2023 with more flexibility for owners of 1- and 2-family homes to provide accessory dwelling units and continuing to expand the inventory of affordable housing. So, again, it's important to me that this is early in the process. The municipality is going to have experience as applications come in and as variances are needed. You're going to have your annual report to the governing body about variances, and you may, based on your experience, recommend different changes. And I know they're being considered now. We need 4 variances associated with this application. We have a side yard where we're holding that wall, which is 2.9 feet away, and it's supposed to be 12 feet away. And that portion is going to stay a garage. As you can see in the diagram on, I guess the best one is on P6, the last page. All of our totally new construction is beyond the 12-foot mark. So from the point of view of the neighbor that's 2.9 feet away, first of all, they have a two-car garage there with a very tall roof, only used as a garage, not for residential. As far as they're concerned in terms of intrusion on the 12-foot setback, it's going to be the same. We have a height issue, and again, this is not going to be apparent from the street. There were several considerations. The Historic Committee wanted more of a peaked roof. The applicant presumably would do it, but that would be a significant change in the increase in the variance. We need a height variance largely because the land drops away significantly. And so 18.04 feet is the defined height. The actual height, if you look at the garage and look at it from the street, is conforming. It's 15 feet. But the peculiarities of it is we want to keep the front and side footprint of the garage. And again, we want to accommodate what the ordinance is looking for, but we do have sloping land, which is a little unusual. It is beneficial in that any stormwater runoff is going to go for the rest of the lawn there. So there's certainly room to handle stormwater runoff, but we don't have the engineering details. The longest wall of the building is 42.9 feet and 36 feet is in the ordinance. That's not part of this new ordinance. That's generic to accessory buildings in the zone. So when that standard was drafted, it was before the municipality was considering whether to accommodate dwelling units. The important thing to me is that this length in wall is toward the back of the lot. And again, it's not going to be apparent looking from the street. It's in the other dimension. And the final important issue is the issue of the square footage. What I did on P6 of my A2, that little diagram in the middle, if you cut off this building, take the 2 bedrooms away, that would be about 800 square feet. And It's significant to me in that, number one, the overage is not to the side, it's to the rear, which is the least apparent part of this. It preserves the open space in the yard for 3 kids, and I suppose the adults can play there, allowed there to play also. But as you heard from the architect, there's a reason why we're doing this. You know, in theory, you could shrink the living area, you know, double up on spaces, but this applicant wants to, because this is all new construction, again, were this some conversion inside the house, you know, inevitably there would be more limitations because of existing dimensions. Here, there is the flexibility of new construction, and the applicant is doing everything for handicapped accessibility, which is a public purpose. And again, I think that because the additional square footage of 443.15 feet is essentially in a conforming part of the backyard. It's in the least visible part. It has a purpose in that there are 2 occupants here and potentially a caregiver. It is far from the street. It's near a cluster of non-residential accessory buildings. So other people are kind of using this as their back ends is kind of the back end of their properties. Again, they have storage there, garages there, there's no living there. I also think it's important to consider that this is an oversized lot. As I indicated on P6, our frontage is 33% over, our lot area is 42.1% over. Your ordinance didn't want an accessory building to be too big compared with the house, and you said in the ordinance it shouldn't be more than 40% of the floor area of the house. We're only 20% of the floor area of the house. This house, excluding the basement, is 6,088 square feet, so it certainly is proportional to the size of the Tudor house in front. So with the condition that I suspect there's enough room to handle any stormwater drainage, because this is being placed at the high end of the backyard. You got all the rest of the backyard to work with in terms of a seepage pit. With that condition in mind, in my opinion, there are 2 reasons to justify this. Under a C1, we have an existing garage. There's a row of substantial trees on the side of this. We don't want to completely do new construction. We want to make sure we protect those trees. That is potentially a C1 argument because of the existing placement of the garage and the alignment of the driveway that faces the garage. In addition, I think there is a C2 benefits that substantially outweigh the detriments. And again, I read into the record the findings in the ordinance. This is to be encouraged, and especially it's looked at as being beneficial to disabled individuals. This is exactly one of the reasons the ordinance was drafted, to keep people in town. This is in a historic district, and again, there were some modifications of it in concert with what the recommendations were of the Historic Committee. In terms of negative criteria, this building is remote from the street. It's hidden by the house. It's next to non-residential accessory buildings on the other lots. This is a lot that is oversized both in square footage and in frontage. And again, there's enough, and because of the topography, yes, we get penalized a little bit on the height, but the reason we're staying high is first of all, it saves the rest of the rear yard, which is largely in grass, but it provides a great area to disperse any stormwater runoff that's caused by the new construction. So I believe that there are positive criteria satisfied, a certain portion under a C1, but frankly, the stronger portion is C2. The public benefits substantially outweigh the detriments, and I believe this can be approved without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yes, Mr. Steck, I was looking at the, your illustration on P3. And it made me particularly conscious of the fact that there are 3 properties that touch this corner of this application. And you made reference to the fact that you drew attention to the fact that there are buildings on those, it looks like it's on all 3 of those properties that border this.
If you look at the first page that has the aerial photo, and again, where the circle is, because it's hard to see because there are tree branches that overshadow the garage. The circle is where the garage is now, and so that gives you a sense of where the other buildings are.
Right.
And again, the bottom of page 3 is taken about 100 feet in the air because the slate roof garage that's on the adjacent lot 5, it's hard to see that because that sticks up into the evergreens.
Yeah, that's helpful. I guess the question that I'm wondering is there the potential, in your professional view, that there could end up being a cluster of ADUs in this small area? I mean, there's nothing to prevent the homeowners of those 3 properties from deciding that they also wanted to convert an existing structure into an ADU.
If they comply with the ordinance, they're guaranteed to do it. So the answer is it's a possibility.
And would you see, if there were to be such a cluster, would you see that as potentially having a negative impact, or how would you sort of?
Well, first of all, the part of our development that's close to them is the garage, and it's going to stay a garage. So there's an insulating factor there. And part of your requirements in the code are the placement of windows. You know, they don't want windows facing the neighbors. So, I mean, right now, I think we have more flexibility because there's no residential uses around. If one of those neighbors wants to put in an ADU, they're going to have to design it knowing that we're there.
Yes.
And I don't see, frankly, any negatives. These are large lots. Again, if we didn't have our garage there, this would meet all the setbacks. But the setback, the garage is essentially a buffer to noise and anything else that would occur in the new ADU.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess the other question I have is again, just going back to, a comment that I made earlier in our consideration of this application, and that was around precedent. And looking at the size of this project, and given the fact that there currently is, the ordinance does have an expectation in terms of scope. Do you think that we might be putting ourselves in a position in which we're creating a situation in which really all proposals are going to look at exceeding what is currently set by the township?
Well, as you know, there are no technical precedents in these matters because every piece of property is unique.
Right.
But again, that's one of the reasons I'm emphasizing that this is a lot with more frontage than normal, more area, and the proposed ADU is only 20% of the floor area of the building. There's a cluster of facts here that I suppose if someone came in with almost identical stuff in a historical, they would point to this, but as you know, technically, this doesn't justify any other application. But I do think there were a fairly unique cluster of facts, plus the motivation of this owner is, to help parents that will take advantage of the special construction.
No, I understand. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions? No questions. Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
I would just like clarification on the existing wall, because I think the previous testimony was that it was going to be rebuilt, and you might have just specified that.
I understood that the dimensions are staying the same, but and the client can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the wall that faces the neighbor, the 2.9 foot, is staying. That was my understanding. But the roof is going. And because so much of that property is being demolished, the garage, we're requesting a variance to keep it at 2.9 feet. So the motivation is so that neighbor doesn't really have any change from what they're looking at. The ADU is going to be more than 12 feet away, which would be conforming. Now,
Okay.
potentially, I may have the facts wrong, but I thought that wall was going to be retained.
Yes.
Is it going to be retained, or is a new wall going to be built in the same location? Because I think that's a different consideration on our part.
No, the wall is remaining. It's going to be underpinned to provide a new foundation and a new brick base.
Okay, so the wall is staying?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Grant?
No questions.
Mr. Cruz?
I just had one question, or a couple questions about, one of the comments you mentioned was that that there's no residential accessory buildings in the area.
No, there are no residential, of the cluster of buildings, if you look at the bottom of P3, those buildings are all utility buildings or garages. There's no other dwelling unit that's next to this. There's a cluster of accessory buildings, but they're not residential.
Including the neighbor?
Correct.
Wait, so you're saying was not 146, but 142, that there's no accessory dwelling unit on 142?
Correct.
So I see like two buildings. I see I guess the main building, the Tudor house. I see what looks like a carriage house thing, and then like a cottage in the back.
The slate roof is on lot.
I'm looking at lot 7.
Okay, lot 7.
Yeah.
That's way that's across the lawn.
Right.
That's not close to this. And I don't know, it looks to be like a residential building. I didn't consider that because that's way on the other side of the property. It's 180 feet away or something.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just wanted to just clarify that one statement, because I was...
You're right, if I expand it, but I was looking at the ones that are most impacted by this.
Certainly. Just out of curiosity then, just to play on this, the size of this like rear building, is the building coverage of this proposed accessory dwelling unit comparable to this neighboring what appears to be an accessory dwelling unit?
That's on the other side of the property?
Yeah.
On lot 7.
Yeah, on lot 7, it looks like there's
a huge building in the
accessory
back.
dwelling unit in the rear.
This one?
That's,
This one?
I think the...
Yeah, that one.
Maybe more...
Yeah, it's a separate house, so they're rentals, so there's two separate houses, and it's at least 2 bedrooms of that type, of that house that you're talking about.
So then it's not then technically an ADU, there's 2 houses on the lot.
There's 2 houses on the lot, correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
But to your question, it's about the same size of the ADU. That one is big.
Yeah, just in terms of the first floor surface area. I mean, the first floor, full floor area, okay. Yeah, that's the only question I have, thank you.
Mr. Griffith,
No questions.
Mr. Moore?
No questions.
So the township recently adopted the ordinance, and I guess, and we made a recommendation in our last annual report that we discovered that due to in the R1 and the R2 zones, you couldn't actually build to 800 square feet because of and so we recommended to the governing body that they change that, and that, as Mr. Griffith pointed out, that ordinance is actually pending. But given the recent history of this and very, very precise limits on the size of the unit, how do we justify doing a unit that's 50% larger than what is permitted and not say that's not having a substantial impairment of the zone plan? I mean, this is not an old ordinance that's, outdated and whatever. I mean, the governing body gave a lot of thought to this and said this is the maximum size we want to allow. It said a maximum and a minimum. It didn't say just do what you want.
I think it works two ways. That number one, the purpose of this ordinance was not to constrain housing. I could see a town, a lot of towns now, are using FARs on single-family houses because they don't want to see oversized houses. They redefine the height of houses. And if you want to constrain development, and an ordinance was just adopted yesterday, I think it's a harder burden to say, we just wanted to stop it, and here you are asking for an exception. This is the other side of the coin. The municipality wants to encourage this, and there's not a lot of experience around the state of New Jersey. Not many municipalities do this. So my point is the fact that the municipality wants to encourage this construction is important. You're going to be gathering information as people come in and want variances or think they need variances. But in my opinion, I think there is a foundation that's unique to this property. You may never grant another variance over 800 square feet, but I think you have to look at the circumstances. And it may be that the governing body decides that one maximum size is not good for all 4 zones. Or maybe it's proportional to the lot size. That makes more sense to me. If you look at Montclair's history, there are a lot of carriage houses that indeed had horses in the bottom and grooms sitting, living on the second floor. They're huge buildings on huge lots, and that's part of the character of Montclair. I don't think it is, while you want to be cautious always of granting variances, the fact that this is a recent ordinance, you haven't had a lot of experience with it.
But doesn't that argument go the other way in terms of the town said, we don't have a lot of experience, there isn't a lot of experience statewide that we can point to, so we want to be cautious, limit the size, put a variety of constraints on what can be done, and let's see what happens and let's get some experience before we start expanding what can be done.
Well, again, the one thing that doesn't make sense to me, and again, I don't know, I wasn't part of the drafting of this, is it's one size for all zones. And there are widely different lot sizes in the 4 zones that are named. So, again, it would seem to me that on a smaller lot, you want a smaller building, and maybe they can't fit it, and maybe it becomes too close to all sides in the rear yard. But the fact that it's, again, I think it's an important fact looking at the purpose of the ordinance. I think we've provided a sound basis for the additional square footage, the location of that square footage in the back of the building, as well as meeting the negative criteria.
Though the ordinance as it reads now actually does make a distinction on the sizes by the length of the sides. It effectively limited in the R1 and the R2 zones to 500 and whatever it was square feet. You couldn't build in 800 square feet.
Right.
You can only do that in the RO and the ROA zone. So it's maybe that was intentional. We recommended that was not a good idea. That was unduly restrictive in the R1 and the R2 zones. But I'm not sure that necessarily leads to, it's isn't that really, as Mr. Griffith said before, a legislative function, not a variance function as to...
My point is that even if the ordinance is only 2 hours old, it doesn't change the statutory proofs.
Correct. But you are, I'm sure you have, and I know we have had planners saying, this ordinance was adopted a long time ago, circumstances have changed, and you need to look at the fact there changed circumstances, and we can't do that here.
Right.
You're nodding your head and agreeing.
But the other side of that coin is that there's just not a lot of experience around the state of New Jersey.
In my view, that's a reason to be cautious. But one other question, just in terms of, the Historic Preservation Commission approved the demolition of the building, and do you agree? I understand your argument there. It's been 2.9 feet away from the property line, and you can use that as a C1 basis for approving that variance. But given that the demolition, I think under any court case on demolition, only having 1.5 walls left is a demolition that the reconstruction is now subject to the terms of the ordinance and hence the requirement of the variance. They can't rely on.
I agree. That's why we're asking for the variance.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Any members of the audience? Mr. Rubacki? Should you get a head start?
I want to address the part of the ordinance 34722, which is about accessory buildings first. And my understanding is that this project, I didn't see the document until tonight, but there's basically the total area of the garage and the ADU comes up to around 2,130 feet.
Yeah, 12,043 point something for the ADU. 1,234.
Yes, but the combined building,
right,
because it's one roof.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's around 2,100.
Yes.
And my understanding of the RO zoning is that you can have 2 accessory dwellings 36 by 36 feet.
I think it does allow 2.
Okay. So that gives you roughly 2,600 feet that you could build for accessory uses, as long as they're in 2 different buildings, correct? If we're right.
Well, there are other issues, setbacks,
No, but
assuming,
but this is a huge lot. There's no impervious, there's no setback issues. Let's assume they're not.
Okay.
I'm just saying what the ordinance allows in 34722, which is accessory buildings. So this combined building is less square footage than the sum of what you could build in two buildings, is what I'm trying to ask you.
The math seems to be correct.
Okay. I'm working for you here, by the way.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to hug you after.
Okay. Then, switching gears a little bit, and I forget which this falls under. My understanding, so the ADU is around 1,200 odd feet, okay?
Correct.
The garage is somewhere around 800 square feet.
Correct.
Ballpark. So these could fit in separate buildings easily.
Yes.
By the code. They could, I'm going through the options in my head, and I just want to understand if I'm right. The other option, as I mentioned before, is that you could incorporate this living space into the main house. If they, by a zoning point of view, it
Yes,
probably would
that's
fit.
one of the options.
And then the third option, but I'm not clear on this option, is that they could have a portion of a detached dwelling of pretty much any size within 4 feet of the principal structure, and it would be counted against the principal structure and not accessory structure.
I don't recall the 4 feet, but
It's in
typically an
22.
ordinance
It's in
says
22.
that we don't want you to play games.
Right, no, it came up because of some swimming pool thing or something up in the estate section. And the zoning board recommended this ordinance, as I understood it. I don't know when it got adopted, but it was in one of your recommendations that, hey, we're not going to let this happen, so let's have any building, accessory building, within 4 feet of the primary one count against the main one, assuming it has the space to do it. So that if that's true, then this option would be to somehow connect the ADU within 4 feet of the main building.
Or attach it to the main building.
Well, if you
either
didn't
one.
want to attach it,
Right.
say for some reason you want it structurally different.
Right.
But you could have it within 4 feet. It would use up a very available building coverage, primary structure building coverage, because that's underutilized. And you could make it 2 stories. So you could put a garage use underneath if you wanted to, and an accessory building, which is not allowed now. So effectively, you could build a carriage house, is what I'm saying is an option. I mean, that's to an extreme.
Yes.
Okay.
But the answer is, I don't think it would advance the purposes of historic preservation to start monkeying around with the main house.
Yeah, I obviously would be somebody that generally agrees with you, but our ordinance in Montclair, as I understand it applies here, only covers what's visible. This is an historic resource, it's not a landmark. So regardless, whatever is visible from the street, from the public right of way, is covered under our ordinance. Whatever is not we could have one of the famous artists of the world had their studio in this garage, and it would not be covered under the historic preservation ordinance. They just proved that. They just said it's minimally visible, it's not going to affect the neighborhood, so you can demolish the garage. So what I'm trying to do is, can we dismiss the historic part of this whole application?
No.
Okay, I thought I'd ask. Thank you.
The board has the right to comment on all of these things. There's a
No, I know.
Someone made a case in Milburn, they were doing in the Short Hills area, they were building something in the back of the house, and they said, you can't deny me, and the answer is the board denied it, and it stuck in court. You can control that, even though you couldn't see it from the street. So, my understanding...
I want you to testify when Janice Talley introduces the new ordinance demolishing garages. I really do. It's going to be great. Thank you very much.
Are there any other members of the public who have questions for this witness? Mr. Trembulak, do you want to march on, or do you want to?
We'd like to march on with to carry the application so that we can come back, after engaging the engineer to provide some.
Okay. And
Stormwater and
you represent the next applicant?
I do. We're, just with respect to that, I mean, we're prepared to proceed, but certainly recognizing the hour.
This is relevant for both. Mr. Sullivan, I understand from your discussion with our secretary earlier that you are not available for the first meeting in April.
No, the first meeting in May.
In May, okay, so you are available?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm assuming your next client would be ready to go. Then I'm assuming this client will not be ready to go by then.
I think that's,
And so now, where are we with what else we have scheduled?
For April 2nd, we have one application scheduled, and we don't have anything scheduled for the upcoming dates after that.
Okay, and that application is,
It's a attached garage at 140 Chestnut Street,
okay, but a bulk variance?
a bulk variance, yes.
Okay. Okay. Is everyone here, assuming I'm the only one who's willing to sit, and I just have a 9 o'clock call tomorrow morning to, available for, what is the April date?
April 2nd,
For April 2nd? And probably more relevantly, are you available for April 16th? Because he needs preferably 7 of the 8 of us to resurface for the 16th.
Second is on.
Second is on. Okay. Okay, and is your client and witnesses ready for, available for the second?
yes, I think we discussed that earlier. Yes, they are.
Okay, this is, how many announcements can I do at once and do it correctly? Okay, so the application for the Kissel Menzel property at 144 Union Street is being carried until our meeting on April 16th. There will be no further notice. Do you give us an extension of time if we need it?
Certainly, yes.
Okay. And the, the application for 52 Wildwood Avenue from VG Ashwood LLC is being carried until our April 2nd meeting. There'll be no further notice of the application, and do you give us an extension of time?
Of course, if necessary.
Okay, one question, Mr. Trembulac, on that. Have you ever had discussions with the township about vacating Division Street or that portion of Division Street?
You know, I had a conversation a while back, shortly after, around the time my client acquired this property, about what's going on with Division Street, and the possibility of perhaps acquiring it, you know, and I think at that time Janice Talley thought that, well, maybe, you know, it could be a site that the town might look to for an affordable unit or something.
But that's for the division going the other way, which the application says is a private road. Yours goes into the backyard, that portion goes into the backyard of someone on, what are we over there, Mount Vernon, or Chester?
Yeah, I know, it goes nowhere.
Okay.
I'm gonna, you know.
Okay, okay. Before the board runs away, I would like to do a business item. We recommended in our annual report that we did 2 recommendations that were interrelated, that applicants who are coming in with multiple applications, that be counted towards building an affordable unit. So when they got to their 5th unit, they had to do an affordable unit. The second part of that was to require that LLCs reveal their owners, so you don't have different LLCs from separate properties, which most applicants do. I looked at the application checklist, which is an ordinance, and that only specifies that the applicant and owner be revealed, doesn't specify how that's broken down. My view, and I believe Mr. Sullivan's view, that the requirement in the municipal land use law, even though it doesn't specify LLCs, that ownership should be required in the same way that it is
I
done
think
for
it's
corporations.
consistent with the intent, yes.
Yes, and I've always done that. He's always done that with applications we've handled when we're on the other side of the dais. So what I'd like to do is make a motion that require, going forward for this board, and we're entitled to a separate additional application requirements, that no application be deemed complete for any non-human being entity unless they reveal the ownership down to the 10% as set forth in the municipal land use law. If you've already deemed them complete, we'll march on, but going forward, so is someone second that motion? All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, now we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? See you in a couple of weeks.